of luck. So the one saving grace about this is Jabberwocky actually very rarely casts any spells whatsoever. Worth noting as well that once Jabberwocky drops below half HP, it will no longer... let me try this again. Once Jabberwocky drops below half HP, it actually has a chance to heal itself. And let me tell you, Jabberwocky has so ridiculously much magic power that it will heal for about 400 HP, which is almost half of its maximum HP. It's kind of crazy. So, you know, you're just whacking away at this guy, swing, 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 and then it just undoes the last 2 minutes of your progress. Well, that's if you fight it normally. Now here's a bit of a thing that I figured out at some point that I call Candy Barrel, because I, well, originally developed this with a candy and barrels. So what I'm doing here is I'm using a healing item that plays the healing animation, but before the healing animation plays, I use a barrel afterwards. What this does is the barrel attacks around itself, kind of like it does when you equip the barrel normally. However, for whatever reason, it will attack about 5 times a second. I do not know why that is, but that's just kind of what happens when you use a healing item like a fairy walnut, which plays the healing animation, and then use a barrel. The problem is actually when you get hit in the middle of it by poison gas, which will actually interrupt that kind of concept. When I use a healing item instead. Oof. Not working because he's actually kind of interrupting my candy barrel's shenanigans. So yeah, for some reason, whenever you use this kind of healing item and concept, it will just heal, and then the attack barrel hitbox will just flicker on and off about 5 times per second, so you attack like 6 times really fast. So 141 damage right there. Jabberwocky has about 900 HP total, or 950. One way or another, doing this will actually defeat this guy pretty quickly. The downside is, while I'm in a barrel or in the healing animation, I will not be able to deny damage in case I get hit by an acid storm. And because there's absolutely no telling of when this guy is going to cast acid storm, I just hope he doesn't. One head disappearing means we are just past the halfway point. So I think the poison status kind of messed with the candy barrel status. That was weird. I actually hadn't seen that before.
I'm just always imagining that the boy, when he does the healing animation inside the barrel, he just keeps punching outside the barrel repeatedly.
That sounds about right. He's trying to do the healing animation so hard, stretching out his fist, that he just repeatedly attacks. So the reason why I'm not using this candy barrel strategy against other bosses is because I think hang on, I need to double check real quick. 0, 0, 2... Okay, I need one more. Sorry. The reason why I'm not using this on other bosses is because other bosses actually have a animation where they get hurt and you cannot deal any more damage while they are in that animation. This is actually not true for Jabberwocky here for whatever reason. While Jabberwocky is in its hurt animation and hurt state, you can stack and pile more and more and more damage onto it. Which is very different from like the Fire Gigas, for example, when he goes ouch in his getting hurt animation, you cannot deal more damage to Jabberwocky. Which is actually true for most bosses. Which is also why, for most bosses, you will not be able to like multiply the damage like this. So it's a very unique strategy that only works in very specific places like the Jabberwocky encounter. And we got lucky enough that we, well, didn't get killed by Acid Storm. A bit of a janky beginning, we did lose a bunch of time there, but overall it worked, so that's nice. Alrighty, also, Gemma here will give us an additional whip orb, which is why I'm talking to him in the first place. That is whip level 3, and I will want to use that. So, after having run back and forth in the beginning section here multiple times, now we are finally on our way out of here into, well, the wilderness, if you will. And we will be able to go into the Pure Lands and move on from here. So, I'm curious, chat. What is your opinion on the standard mode of traveling between continents being cannons? I haven't seen a single ship in this game. Also, this is an example of where I'm just not worrying about AI control cactus accidentally killing something. It really doesn't make a difference in the grand scheme of things. The boss is canceling. Go ahead.
I think moving through cannons, at least you don't have lines. Like if you were to wait for like public transport or anything, there might be lines for tickets. I don't think you get that here.
I mean, sure. Maybe
you might get hurt a little bit, but you know, I mean, the service is good at least.
I suppose. Well, they're pretty accurate. Somehow. Our lady, welcome to the upper land where we land in the middle of a Moogle forest or something like that. Fun fact, when you cannon travel from the previous area to the upper lands here, it will always be in the Moogle forest area or version of that area there. What I mean with this is once we basically free the Moogle's forest from the hedgehogs here, they will return here, and the story is that the enemies and monsters repopulate the snowy area. But, curious enough, if you cannot travel back over to where you initially landed, in the snowy area, it will actually be no monsters there, but also no Moogles. They just disappear from there, and there's no monsters because you're kind of in the version, or in the old version of that snowy area, if that makes sense. It's a bit strange. Either way, you can see the spear here that has a solid chance of stunning enemies with balloons in action. Also, the balloon is effectively a stun. You can't do anything for a few seconds, which is actually kind of a big deal. Because while you're ballooned, if I get ballooned, I can't do anything. And the next boss can balloon me for, what was it, 16 seconds, 12 seconds, something like that. Either way, a really long time. And then on top of that, the next boss also has our favorite, where it will just be able to cast spells on everybody. Except everybody is just the boy, which means he will take a little bit more than 3 times as much damage, and effectively I get one shot if I do not deny damage from the upcoming boss's spells. So that's, of course, a lot less than ideal. But unfortunately for the boy solo cactus challenge around here, there's not a whole lot I can do about that, because there's no way to deny status effects from enemies casting spells. The best you can do is remove them after they cast it, but because I can't access my menu while I am stunned, it's kind of difficult to do such a thing. Acid Storm, please do not hit me with that. So for example, Acid Storm actually has 2 effects. It deals damage and it reduces your defense by 25%. I can deny the damage from it via the use of, like, using an item after I get hit by the spell, but the effect of it will actually still take place. I still have reduced defense, right now anyways. Pets is magic faded, that is actually the, well, defense reduction wearing off. So this is the Spring Beak. I'm using a bow against this guy. That has a specific reason, because this guy here has a shield. Now it's a kind of a bit of a strange concept, but hear me out. So the Spring Beak has a beak shield, and that beak shield will absorb any swing that you deal, and with a high zing noise whenever you use a melee weapon. And well, I would like to not have my weapon attack absorbed, so I'm trying to just avoid hitting the beak. And convenient enough, the projectile weapons such as javelin and the bow, they do just kind of bypass that shield in some capacity. Also, this is Thunderbolt, kind of like the wind blade attack earlier, it will kill me if I get hit by it. Also, up the way, in order to remove barrels, I have to press the B button, which is the attack button. So whenever you see me shoot right after equipping a barrel, that is just me removing the barrel at that point. Come on. Another convenient thing about the bow is, because it's a projectile weapon, it will hit enemies that are on higher or lower elevation than me. Which is a good thing, because the spring beak can jump onto these little podiums on the side here. And if he's up there, you couldn't hit him with the spear or the sword at all at that point. So I actually prefer Spring Beak jumping around like this rather than casting spell, because this guy can cast Balloon level 2, I think, which, as I said, is like a 12 second stun. There's not really anything I can do about that. If he decides to cast Balloon on me, and then cast like a Thunderbolt, I'm dead, and there's nothing I can do about it. Why is Balloon level 4? Let's see how long it lasts. Also, I have a Bunny Balloon. The higher level version actually uses or makes a Moogle balloon instead. The lower level version is just a boring rat balloon. There we go, I can actually move again and that didn't die. That's convenient. Also, do not stand behind this tree here. After you defeat the boss, you will softlock the game. Four barrels. Ah, couldn't turn around before removing the barrel. Also, of course, this also has evasion. So on top of the beak shield, just kind of denying your weapon's attack power, of course it also has the ability to just evade it. So, you thought you hit me? Ha! Guess again. 40% of the time you don't hit me anyways. Which is why, by the way, spells are even better than they already would be. Aside from being able to just nuke bosses with their elemental weakness, you also don't have to worry about chance to hit. Alrighty, we managed to defeat the Spring Beak without getting killed, so that's kind of nice. Where is the hitbox? So the hitbox for the Spring Beak is actually on top of his legs. Which actually is something I forgot to mention about the previous boss. The previous boss had its hitbox below the feet, like just kind of outside the body. It's kind of weird. Also funny to see that we have 3 bows equipped right now. Silence confuses and not mutes people from casting spells. It actually does both. It also mutes you from casting spells, as well as confusing your inputs. Which, by the way, confusing your inputs means that up is down is up, left is right, and right is left. Which, if you get confused and then you go to save your game somewhere while you're confused, you will actually have your inputs permanently swapped. Because there's actually a menu option that indicates as to whether you have your controls upside down or not. By going into the menu and pressing R, you actually flip your controller upside down, which is not normally something people want to have. That's the thing. For some reason, getting confused and saving, the game just saves that configuration. It's very interesting.
That sounds like fun. Can you start a new game like that?
Maybe? Never tried.
That would be a great challenge run. Do a speed run, but with upside down controls.
I don't think it would be that difficult, although it would be very confusing once I get upside down controls naturally. Yeah, I guess I'm used to it sometimes. Alrighty, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm actually going to start grinding up the sword towards level 3. So, I think that is 15 enemy kills in order to level up the sword to level 3. And the way I'm gonna do this is I'm going to defeat a bunch of Silktails here earlier in this screen, because they just happen to spawn in a very convenient way whenever I'm basically around here. Could you stop casting? Thank you. So Silktails are pretty strong, they deal a good chunk of damage. So it's not without risk to do this, but if you go over here, in this specific spot, they will just all pile up onto this one spot and you can just hit them reasonably easily. And I just attack them and until they are gone. They also give a decent amount of regular experience, so I will just have a little bit more attack power and a few more levels after doing this. So this also helps a little bit with that. But the big deal is really to just level up the sword to level 3, so I can charge up the weapon to level 3 afterwards, which will help me with being able to, well, defeat a boss a little bit later. And sometimes the enemies here unfortunately do not cooperate too well, especially if new ones spawn. Makes it a bit more difficult to knock out the previous ones. Because remember, if I get knocked down to the floor, I am possibly going to get comboed because multiple enemies can just attack multiple times and I just get hit again and again and again. There's not really anything I can do in the meantime often.
Well, you're not the boss that has this own animation that like can't be damaged, unfortunately.
Nope. Not really. There is some invulnerability, like when you get knocked down to the floor and you're getting up, you actually have brief period of invulnerability there, but it's very brief. So each character and enemy has two types of getting hurt animations. One is where you get hit for less than 25% of your maximum HP, and one for, well, more. If your character gets hit for 25% HP or less, you just get knocked back and you have a relatively quick get up animation. However, if you get hit for more than that, you get knocked down all the way to the floor onto your back, and then it takes you a while to get up, which actually does have its benefits that I will be exploiting later, but it's a bit janky, we'll see. Alrighty, I have now my sword at level 3, which, as a reminder, leveling up weapons does not inherently make them stronger with base attacks. Leveling up weapons just gives me the ability to charge up the weapon to the next higher level. Don't sleep flower me, please. Ow. As a solo character, there's not really anything you can do about that. But yeah, maybe about version of this game. So the version I'm playing right now is the one that you get with the SNES Mini. So the Super Nintendo Mini version is what I'm playing here, which is the exact same version as you would get for if you have the US copy of a Super Nintendo cartridge. The only difference is actually that the SNES Mini as an emulator actually tones down the flashing effects of the game. So sometimes you might see some flashing effects that look a little bit off, a little bit different from what you might be used to. And that's pretty much what is happening there, where the game just tones down the flashing effect and the flickering by quite a lot, which is very nice, I might like to add, because some of these screens have very unpleasant effects on the eyes. I can point them out a little bit later. But yeah, that is actually pretty much the main reason why I play the SNES Mini. I think the SNES Mini is slightly faster than the Super Nintendo version, but that's not really why I'm playing this one. Further, there is also the Collection of Mana version that you can play. It does have various, well, localizations, let's put it this way. And those are also pretty much the exact same as you can find on the cartridge, depending on which version you play. So maybe that's the thing about versions. So in case you're wondering about all these glitches and tricks I'm doing, you can do all of these things on the Collection of Mana as well as on the original cartridge. Alrighty. So, you might remember some other speedruns actually phase straight through that mushroom there, but, well, you need multiple characters for that, and I only have one, so we don't do that. Also, I forgot. This is something I tend to forget way too frequently. I can actually upgrade my equipment here for having more defense. You might also notice I did not equip the Wolf's Band, which gives me like 6 more defense. But the Wolf's Band well, let me back off real quick. What I currently have equipped as an accessory is the Power Wrist, which gives me +5 strength, and effectively that is just 5 more damage every time I attack, give or take it a little bit. And that is way more valuable than having a little bit more defense in my book. Also, by the way, if you're wondering why the text box appears again, character sees the Reaper, in this case Go 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 sees the Reaper, whenever you jump across a gap with the whip. The reason for this is because your characters briefly get or have all of their status effects removed. That does include the death status. Whenever you are jumping across a gap, and the death status specifically gets reapplied after that. Which the reason why that's worth noting is because... Uh-oh. I messed it up. I'll have to revive the sprite again. I need the sprite here to hit the switch, basically. It'll be fine. Or not. I don't have a wheel jam. Well, that's unfortunate. Also, I was talking about something, and I might have forgotten what it was about.
Death and ropes.
Oh yeah, status effects. Whenever you jump across a gap in this game with the whip, all status effects are removed. And they are not reapplied, unlike death. Well, death is the one status effect that does get reapplied, let's put it this way. Also, sprite, please take a nap before we go in there to the boss. Yes, sure. Eh? Okay, sprite didn't die from an attacking issue. That's interesting. Alrighty, welcome to...
Sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
I think it got silenced by the other owl.
Oh, well, that's interesting. Yeah, that can happen. Enemies can overwrite their own damage with their own spells if they are casting too quickly and such, or if separate enemies cast on you. Alright, welcome to Great Viper. Great Viper has over 1000 HP, the first boss to have so much, and also it is the last boss who does not have evasion, meaning as long as I attack properly, I will deal damage. Now, it has a very predictable pattern that I can just exploit. However, there's a reason why I'm using a long-range attack weapon. Which, two things about that. For one, you cannot use the bow or javelin on this boss. It literally doesn't deal any damage. I don't know why, but projectiles just don't connect with this boss at all. It doesn't work. That's one thing. And the other thing, you could technically use the spear or the sword for this. Those weapons deal more damage than the whip, but the Viper has effectively two different types of melee attacks. One is where it just rolls over your character with its body. Whenever it takes a corner or changes direction, that is considered a separate attack. So if you're unlucky, it will just take a corner on top of you, meaning it will just attack you with the melee attack twice. On top of that, sometimes it opens up its mouth, that is another separate attack. So you can get hit 3 times very quickly. The opening mouth animation also has a chance to pygmy you, as in making your character a tiny character, which reduces your physical defense by 3/4. And, well, if you get your physical defense reduced by 3/4 and deal damage to, and then on top of that he just rolls over you twice after that, you're basically dead. So you kind of want to stay away from that mouth, to say the least. Also, it can cast Gem Missile only 4 times? 4 or 5. Either way, it has very limited MP. So after it casts these Gem Missiles a few times, it will no longer be able to. But what is technically possible is Great Viper can cast Gem Missile, it knocks you to the floor, it eats you to pygmy you, and then it rolls over you twice and you're just 100 HP to 0. It's pretty rude when that happens, and, well, it has happened before. Which is why it's really important for me to cancel damage for the Gem Missiles. Now the thing is, the Viper doesn't inherently have a separate animation for when it casts Gem Missile, but it only can cast them at a specific time in its animation or in its movement. So I have a pretty good idea on when it can or cannot cast Gem Missile, which is why you see me hesitate with attacking at times, in order to not accidentally attack while Gem Missiles are being cast, because in the middle of an attack animation I could not deny the damage, even if I wanted to. Alrighty. Now, if I may ask chat, what do you prefer? Do you prefer it hot or cold? What do you think, Magus?
Personally fan of cold, actually.
Nice, so we are pretty much in one mind then. So, this is a little bit of branching out that you can do in this game. You can go to the ice country first or to the desert first. Speedrunning wise, it is technically more efficient to go to the desert first, but it's a lot more safe for a solo character to go to the ice country first, because this lands me in the city where I can immediately upgrade my equipment, and that is a pretty big step up in defense for this set of equipment here. I'm also going to buy 2 silver armbands and 2 gold vests. Those will be used for later, in conjunction in case we actually managed to make this a true solo character challenge run, which, as a hint, may still need some donations. I actually don't know whether any came in. That might be something that we may want to know. So Metroid Master says hot. Of course, we have a bit of chat delay here. Cryptonym says cold. We prefer cold. Well, that's fair. I don't understand the hot part, but then again, that's just me. Other people have obviously different preferences. Yeah, thank you. By the way, these wolves deal a lot of damage, and they attack really quick, and they have a really wide attack range. So, pretty dangerous, to say the least. I'm actually not going to pick up this.
They can also slow you down.
Yes. Which is
so
kind of
actually,
Go ahead.
Can you actually like get in a situation where you can't escape from them?
Technically, it's technically possible, but actually kind of unlikely. But because of how much damage they deal, they will usually kill you before you even get like an infinite combo going. Alrighty, welcome to Boreal Phase. This is the reason why I leveled up my sword to level 3. And I'm just gonna try and hit him. Whenever I hit Boreal Phase, it will usually burrow down again. If I hit.
Isn't evasion great?
Yeah, it's evasion. So here's the thing, this guy sometimes can actually bug out and be unhittable with melee weapons. That is technically possible. I don't know what causes it or what triggers it. But yeah, it's not the case here, this is just being unlucky.
Dang.
Yeah. Also, I'm sitting here in specific spots in order to not get hit by the pumpkins, because the pumpkins effectively explode on top of the trees, which, if you want to put it this way, the trees are like higher up terrain, and thus I'm actually not gonna get hit by the explosion. Also, the explosion or the pumpkins actually get triggered by the ghosts being there, and that's kind of what I mean with ghosts just absorb projectiles and there's not really anything you can do about that. Either way, this is not a particularly dangerous boss. Cold, but with hot areas. All interesting. Alrighty. Anything else we need to do here?
Yeah, get the boss's HP to 0. I think that's a good goal.
I suppose. Sometimes you actually see the Boreal Phase boss here just kind of stay above ground, like right now, and it is in a very specific timing of its animation. I do not know how it exactly works or when it exactly works, ouch. But yeah. By the way, the body does have spikes, and it will hit you if you try to move past it when it burrows back down. It's a bit inconvenient. Also, in case you're wondering, you're clearly not hitting this guy. Trust me, I would hit him sitting right here. Worth noting, in boss battles, your melee weapons hitbox is actually doubled. This is convenient. So weapons like the sword, the axe, the spear, etc. do have longer or wider range, which is nice. Well, to be specific, the area of effect they cover is doubled, not like the literal range, if you will. And there we go. Boreal phase. Explosions. I really appreciate that all bosses basically explode when I defeat them.
This is also one of the few bosses that actually is not that weak to magic, is that right?
Yes, that's actually an interesting point. As soon as you get magic with the sprite with Undine, from there on you can pretty much nuke all bosses with magic without any trouble. You have the correct element as well as enough magic power to just demolish all of them. Until here, Boreal Phase has actually quite a lot of magic defense, so you have to stretch your sprite's MP quite a bit in order to destroy this guy efficiently. Also, welcome to Salamando, and briefly we get some of the best music in the game. Very briefly. Yeah. Refreshing the page, nobody has donated for the through select hack solo character challenge. Oh well, that's okay. It's going to be still about an hour until that comes up, but that's kind of when it's gonna be over. Alrighty, in the meantime, we destroy a vacation resort, so to speak, where they abuse the elemental spirit Salamando to just kind of heat up an entire area in the middle of the ice country to be hot, I guess? Kinda weird. I'm not sure why they would do that specifically, or why they would specifically capture Salamando for that, but we have Salamando now as a party member, or more specifically elemental spirit that will be able to cast spells. Well, Salamando for our purposes is basically just a fancy key, if you will. So that's kind of all we're gonna use it for. But Salamando's element is actually, or Salamando getting the spirit, is actually where the solo character challenge run of the lady starts speeding up tremendously. So until this point, if you did the solo character run with the lady, she would be a fair bit slower than the boy and a lot slower than the sprite. Like the sprite just is on cruise control as soon as you get magic and cruises through pretty much all the enemies and bosses at that point. Until the final boss, that is where the sprite struggles tremendously, and you have to make quite a bit of preparations to do it fast. Which, fun fact, all three solo character challenge runs are surprisingly close together on how fast they are, at least with my current strategies. So, what else? Alright. I'm going to charge up my weapon here, and there's a chance I will get a critical hit and be able to one-shot some of these guys. But I specifically need a critical hit in order for that to be possible. Kind of like before, if I manage to deal the remainder of these enemies' HP in one hit, like the little pink guys, they will just straight up die.
How are critical hits determined, actually?
Critical hits are a function of your agility, I think. It's not, well, a whole lot of agility, or it doesn't really affect it much, I think. Actually, not entirely sure, but chance of critical hits increases the further you get in the game. There's certain weapons that actually increase your critical hit chance by 5%. For example, the last 2 levels of the boomerang. And there's at least one other that I'm forgetting. But for the most part, chance of critical hit isn't that great, especially in the beginning. Right now, I would guess it's like 5-ish%. I actually don't know. I have never really calculated it. It just happens whenever it happens. There's not really any reasonable way to manipulate it outside of the spell the lady gets later. Yeah, speaking of other solo character challenge runs, the lady just is starting to speed up tremendously once you get to this point and have Salamando, because Salamando allows you to cast spells that actually are offensive natured with the lady's arsenal. That is a huge step up compared to what you have before that.
They're actually relatively strong too. You would think she would get like pretty weak spells even if they are offensive, but they're pretty powerful.
Yes. They're not as strong as the sprite spells, as you might imagine, but from this point on, you just mostly cast spells with her abilities rather than anything else. Want to spear balloon these enemies? Oh, yeah, actually, basically bosses cannot really be ballooned. Would be funny if they could. I think I've tried it at some point. Probably tried it at some point. Alright, welcome to the Frost Gigas. And he is similar to the Fire Gigas. He does a lot of damage with his spells. However, actually, I would survive if I get hit by a spell, as long as I have full HP, I think. So, I kind of hope that he is going to use one of his interesting abilities here. So this is Freeze Breath. I can just use a barrel at any point, really, and deny the damage from it. I just need to make sure to not remove the barrel too early, because the animation plays for quite a long amount of time and only deals damage at the very end of it. So yeah, this is pretty much the same as the previous boss, where I just equip a barrel in order to not get hit. Which, by the way, speaking of equipping a barrel, barrels are technically a weapon. So if you cast an elemental enchant on your weapons while you have a barrel equipped, the barrel actually will get the corresponding color. It's kind of funny, actually. More freeze breaths, I'm okay with this. The thing is, I have to cast the barrel slightly too early compared to be able to hit the Frost Gigas while he is teleporting away afterwards, so he's just in his invulnerable animation. Frost Gigas is only vulnerable for a very limited amount of time while being around, so I have to be pretty precise with my attacks. And of course, evasion. The game just decides, nope, you're not hitting today, or right now. Oh, there we go, Ice Saber, thank you. So that's actually a good thing. So fun fact, elemental weapons in this game do not actually deal elemental damage. They just increase your base damage a little bit and have special effects, like in the case of the Ice Saber, it turns enemies into snowmen, obviously not bosses. That'll be funny, gigantic snowman. Either way, it actually increases my base damage by a little bit here. So that's really neat. Unfortunately, because equipping barrel counts as equipping a weapon, as soon as I, equip a barrel, I no longer have Ice Saber. Now I do again, thank you. So yeah, him actually giving me Ice Saber increases my damage very slightly. Until I have to use a barrel. Barrels, for when you can't see them, they can't hurt you. Very accurate, most of the time. Spells of bosses are kind of an exception. Thank you. So as a kid, I knew that when you switch weapons, you remove the weapon enchant, so of course I would just remove my weapon enchant as soon as he casts Ice Saber on me, because I don't want an ice weapon against an Ice Gigas, and especially if the boss casts elemental weapons on me, that's a bad thing. Turns out, no, that's actually useful. Well, I'm not having a particularly good chance to hit right now, so... Oh well.
How much HP does this guy have, actually?
Like 1,300 or so? I actually don't know. A lot of bosses I don't know the exact numbers. Oh, that could have been bad. I was still charging my weapon while he was casting a spell, and I would not have been able to deny damage from an acid storm if we casted that instead. Wow. In case you want to keep track of MP, cause Acid Storm costs 3 MP, Ice Saber costs 2 MP. The Freeze Breath doesn't cost anything because it's a skill and not a spell. Wow, another miss. And one more barrel until I have to restock them.
I mean, they had the right idea. They gave him the Ice Saber. They just forgot to to make Ice Saber actually ice.
Yeah, it's pretty much. Alright, I have to briefly go ahead and... Oh! I never upgraded my equipment! That could have been really bad.
Does any of this equipment give you a significant amount of magic defense?
Yes. Yes,
Okay,
it does.
yeah, that could have been really bad.
Which actually is kind of interesting to think about, because I literally haven't gotten hit until now. Well, I still haven't gotten hit, I guess. Which is why I never noticed.
Yeah, yeah.
But the Acid Storm would actually kill me without having the new equipment here. At least I'm pretty sure about that.
Yeah, usually if you don't upgrade your equipment, things hurt you pretty badly. I only know that from the randomizer, but yeah.
Yeah, the equipment you get here compared to the previous one set is a pretty significant step up. I guess. So whenever I buy equipment and I don't equip it, feel free to yell at me, chat, because that's something I do very often. Also, fun fact, without any real mistakes here, in fact I didn't get hit, so I probably saved time on that aspect. I actually lost about 1.5 minutes compared to my splits. Just because I got such a terrible, well, luck with hitting this guy. Alrighty, so we rescued Santa. And no, that's not a joke, that's literally in the game. Well, I mean, I guess it's a joke. Either way, the story here is Santa stole the mana seed of fire because he wanted to make a gigantic tree, Christmas tree specifically, because the people in the world stopped believing in Santa and he kind of wanted to get his trust back. So he steals a mana seed, tries to make a gigantic tree with it, and because defensive magic stuff, he gets turned into the Ice Gigas that we then subsequently defeat and he gets set free. Something along these lines. Also, in case you're wondering, I actually would prefer if my allies survived going through this section here, but that one screen outside the water, the Ice Palace, the walls will hit your allies unless you somehow manage to do something, which is... It's just more efficient to just let them get knocked out and revive them here again for the cannon travel. Also, let's see, how many... Okay, just enough Cups of Wishes. You actually have to go via Matango first. If you try to go to the desert from here, he will tell you, I don't have enough gunpowder. And I've actually recently checked the map, and it is very, very slightly further to the desert from the ice country, which might not even true if you wrap around the world instead of going the, well, overworld way, so to speak. Either way, the actual reason as to why you have to go from Matango, as in from the mushroom village here, to the desert, is because this is how the game initiates you getting lost in the desert and then get picked up by the sand ship for the first time. Once you have actually gotten lost in the desert and then picked up by the sand ship, you can directly get cannon travel access from the ice country over to the desert. This is why it is actually technically slightly faster to go to the desert first. Because you don't have to do this pit stop in Matango again. So you can go directly back and forth. Alrighty, cannon travel time. So, the desert coming up is actually a kind of a special type of desert screen that you can, well, not normally return back to during regular gameplay. So, another fun fact, if you are trying to get all rare drops from all enemies, you want to grab the rare drops from the scorpions right here, because once you clear the fire palace, the scorpions will no longer be anywhere accessible. Well, normally. You can technically come back here, but that involves a glitch. If you want to play glitchless, well, obviously you can't do that. I may speak from experience. Alrighty, in order to complete the desert sequence here, you go up, left, down, right, or up, right, down, left, or up, left, up, right, up, left. You get the idea. Basically, the desert more or less infinitely loops around. You just need to get back to your start screen from a different angle, if you will, in order to trigger this sequence here, where you get picked up by the desert ship. Up, left, down, right, this just happens to be the fastest path. At least I think it is. I haven't checked that in a while. Let's see whether I can talk to this guy from remote. Nope, didn't work. Doesn't actually save any time, in case anybody's wondering what I'm talking about. If you press the B button, which is the interact button, right one frame after you get teleported somewhere or at the end of a certain cutscenes, you can actually interact with objects and people and characters that are not really close to you. We call that remote interaction or remote talking. And in this case we had to talk to the guy in the machine room twice anyway, so since you can only do that once at the very beginning, doesn't really help you, but it's kind of funny when you get it. Oh, I'm actually gonna save before I go here. I don't think Mech Rider even does particularly much damage once I get equipment from the Ice Country, but I'm just playing it safe. Also, I would like to point out, getting to this point here on the sand ship, I remember as a kid we were running around for half an hour or an hour until we finally noticed, hey, there's a door that totally looks disguised as a wall in this area. We were just running in circles the entire time on the ship until we finally found that entrance. It's kind of silly. Not even supposed to be hidden, it's just not well telegraphed, I guess. Alrighty, and the upcoming boss here is going to be Mech Rider number 1. There's gonna be 3. Mech Rider number 1, what he does is, he will charge across the field, the battlefield that is, and knock you over, also knock you unconscious if you get hit. And I actually want him to knock out the sprite here, please. Now we're at it. And effectively, what he does is he moves up and down the right side of the arena, or the left side for that matter, until he has the opportunity to run you over with his, well, charge attack. He will only do that when your character is on the same vertical axis as his machine, and then he just charges across. Now the thing is, if I hit him while he is not charging or not in the process of about to charge, he will cast speed up on himself. While he already has a buff, speed up buff for example, he will instead use another ability like the missiles or a wave cannon. Both of these are actually physical abilities and they deal quite a bit of damage, they are not without danger. So these little missiles he's shooting actually get absorbed by ghosts, and Once again, another example of there's not really a whole lot you can do in order to control him not hitting the ghost, aside from maybe waiting until he runs out of speed up, so he will try to speed up again. Then again, with the current equipment, he does not really deal a whole lot of damage either way, because the boy has naturally quite a lot of defense compared to at least like the lady or the sprite-less characters. Another speed up. Speed up actually, I think, only works for enemies in terms of evasion. But it's more of a concept of, like, it's not evasion, as much as it's actually you get more low damage rolls rather than high damage rolls. I think that's how it works.
Isn't it also supposed to raise your hit rate?
Oh yeah, that's supposed to raise the hit rate. I don't think it does. I don't actually know.
Yeah, I mean...
I don't actually know whether it does or not.
It's not noticeable, let's put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, the broadsword, level 2 sword, actually gives you +1 dexterity, which technically increases your hit rate. But practically, it's very negligible. Alrighty, I'm going to upgrade my sword here, as well as upgrading the boomerang. As I will want to use both of these tools very soon. I'm going to briefly double check for safety our equipment to... Oh, there's one. And anything else? Nope, just 2. So, inns are one of the most convenient places to replenish my supplies by throwing away items. 1, 2. Because just to the left of the counter, you are perfectly aligned with the horizontal axis. I did not mean to sleep. You are perfectly aligned with the horizontal axis in order to just initiate the equipment thrashing for multiplying your items. Which, as mentioned before, is by equipping the items and then throwing them away. Which the game tries to unequip the item and then delete it, but it kind of does weird stuff based on where you stand on the screen. Which is why we can manipulate the numbers of items, or, well, the number of items we have in our inventory. Specifically the amount of an item stack. Now, I went to save because it is technically possible that Minotaur could kill me if I'm a little bit unlucky and don't play too well, which is always a possibility. But other than that, we actually need the sprite in this section here specifically in order to get through this stuff. So we need to use the Exploder here in the basement. It specifically has to be the Exploder spell in order to get through here.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how sometimes you only need to cast a certain spell, and other times you can just like, oh, that's not good. I know this from Rando. This is bad.
Yep.
Yeah. Nice. What was I gonna say? Yeah, sometimes you have to cast a certain spell. Other times it's enough to use the elemental sprite in any spell. It's kind of weird how they do that, though.
Yeah, I think it's specifically in the Grand Palace you can use any element or any spell from the element, as opposed to here, where it's specific ones outside the Grand Palace. I think anyways. Found 1,000 gold. So, you might wonder, hey, you don't need money, you have way too much anyways, why are you picking that up? And the reason is because that chest always spawns, which means it actually occupies an enemy spawn slot. What that means is that here, 3 enemies will spawn as soon as I go downstairs. If I don't pick up the chest, it's only going to be 2. This is one of the most efficient and best farming spots in the entire game relative to, well, how far you are in the game. It actually might be the best one in terms of progress to how much experience and money you get, as well as how quick you can kill those guys. They have basically no defense and relatively low HP. So I want to level up the sword to level 4, and also want to level up the boomerang to level 2 during this section here. Alright, we already have the sword to level 4. The boomerang level 2 will come into play a bit later. It's basically one of these weapons that's a bit more awkward to level than others. But it works.
Got a question. Do you do this in glitchless speedruns as well?
Yes. In glitchless
I figured.
speedruns, you actually stay here a little bit longer, because this is also your source of money for, well, the foreseeable future. Because it's actually a lot of money.
Yeah, I figured. I was just curious because you said it's the best one. I admittedly have not seen a glitchless speedrun in a while, but yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, well, let's put it this way. The glitchless speedrun with all 3 party members don't do that.
Uh-huh.
That's a difference, sorry.
I see.
Yeah, the glitchless speedrun, well, I suppose you could say, if you have the sprite available, you kill the Embermen instead, which are better overall, with just a single free spell.
That makes sense. Yeah. So in a solo sprite run, would you also use the Embermen? Yeah.
Yep. Well, actually, in the sprite run, you just rush through anyways. You don't need
okay, you
much
don't
of anything.
actually need... Okay, yeah. I don't know, maybe spell leveling or something. No idea how much MP you need, but I guess you...
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Distracting you.
Yeah. In the solo sprite run, all I do here is I level up the sword to level 4 and the boomerang to level 2 as well, then I just move on, because it's just more efficient to do this here rather than anywhere later. Also, Blaze Wall. Blaze Wall actually engulfs you in flames. And that is a status effect that just is effectively crowd control, and there's not really anything I can do about that. Like, I can not deny the damage like I can with other spells, because the status effect prevents me from doing anything. And the status effect always applies even if you deny the damage. So it's a little bit awkward right there. Also, I want to heal up for this. Alrighty. So here I actually need the sprite again briefly for activating this orb. So you can actually skip the Minotaur coming up in the next section of the game, but you need the sprite to cast the spell twice and with very specific timing. And this is not a solo challenge. This is a solo cactus challenge run, so I'm not using other cactus in order to do stuff. I'm just gonna let the sprite get knocked out, and that's when we continue. So this is the Minotaur. He loves to cast Earthlight. Uh-oh. First time I managed to not deny the damage. Either way, he loves to cast Earthlight a lot. And weirdly enough, he does not have a collision box, so you can walk straight through him. Don't know why that is. But you don't want to be too close to him. He will use his physical abilities and attacks if you are close enough to him, which some of them he can just straight up grab you and slam you to the ground, which deals a good chunk of damage. It's not inherently dangerous because of the damage, but because I'm a solo character, because that ability will also knock me unconscious. Unless I have a barrel equipped, which just denies that damage in the first place. Him turning red means he's only at half HP. He does change his attack pattern a little bit, or he would anyways if I let him. So whenever he casts a spell, Earthlight is targeted at a single character, so I will survive another Earthlight if I get hit by it. I would prefer not to get hit by it, but yeah, I would survive it. However, that is not true for the next Gorgon Bowl, or, well, Minotaur type enemy. So I'm actually going closer to him while having the barrel equipped, because that way he will be guaranteed to only use physical attacks and not use any spells. Once again, barrels entirely prevent physical attacks from dealing any damage whatsoever. However, spells will get through. Oh, he didn't cast Earth's Light there. There we go, and he's done. So he is mildly dangerous to say the least. Yeah. So, fun fact, if you pick me a character and stand right next to him, he will use his physical attacks, but he will never hit you. Or more specifically, if he punches to the right, he will just be in range of you to start his melee attack, but he will never actually hit you with the melee attack. It's a bit weird and kind of janky to set up. So in solo character challenge runs I don't do that, because there you can just nuke him and it's easier and safer. Alrighty, we have managed to clear the Palace of Fire, we have the 4th mana seed, once again a little bit more attack power, defense power, and also spells could be leveled up to level 4 at this point, which is kind of a big deal, because level 3 spells are not as capable of punching through enemies and bosses' defense, which obviously in this run it doesn't exactly matter, but generally speaking. Alrighty, and we managed to move on to the Empire. So, you will see Southtown here again later when we need to grab the gold key, and you will see Southtown briefly again if you manage to reach the donation goal for making this a true solo character challenge run. If you'd like to see the Mana Beast defeated by literally just one character, the other 2 removed from the party, then, well, that could be a goal to achieve. Alrighty, now here, even though I'm going to avoid talking with the sewer guard, because I don't need to talk to him I guess, I'm actually gonna go in here and grab the password anyways. The reason for this is, this lady here gives us the gold key later in the run in order to enter the gold tower. However, she will still give us the password if we have never talked to her before that, so it's faster to actually go and grab the password right now and then later go and come back for the gold key directly rather than to have to go here and then back out and back in again. Bonk. So welcome to the sewer system. This is where we sent people into Snowman's Land. Well, only if you reach the goal anyways. 3 barrels, okay, that stack is used. So, we actually do not want to get hit by the blue slimes, because they turn you into a snowman with a very high probability. Hence the term Snowman's Land, I guess. And being turned into a snowman in order to go fast, well, you don't want to be a snowman. However, if you have the boy specifically turned into a snowman, and then you go through this screen transition right here into this cutscene, you will softlock the game. Because the boy has a little nodding animation right here. And that nodding animation cannot be executed on a snowman, which is why the game softlocks. So, yeah. Don't do that. Also, some people have lost characters in the sewers accidentally. It happens. Don't worry about it too much. Well, actually, if you specifically lose the sprite and or the lady, unless you use glitches, you cannot finish the game anymore. You can finish the game without the boy though. Even casually, if you don't use glitches beyond that. Kinda funny. Alrighty, finally we had another set of equipment upgrades, and here's actually the first time where I'm going to actually equip the accessory. So up until now the power wrist was just too good to not use with its +5 strength. However, the defense difference, especially for magic defense, is too great at this point for me to ignore, so we're actually equipping the Frosty Ring. The Frosty Ring also prevents us from getting engulfed in flames, although that's kind of more of a secondary effect anyways. Oh, that's right, actually, I'm not gonna save yet. Well, I guess I could have when I was already there, but we're going to come back here shortly again. Sometimes I mix up the various solo character runs, because they all have just varying strategies for varying areas. Maybe sometimes I want to have all 3 solo character challenge runs kind of side by side, so we just can showcase them somewhere. Obviously I couldn't exactly run all 3 of them at the same time. Well, not reasonably anyways.
That's a fun idea, though, that you could do that on your channel, like, just like have 3 videos run and compensate them.
Yeah, I actually like that idea, because there's so many little differences, and again, for anybody who missed that earlier, all 3 solo character challenges are so surprisingly close in terms of how quick they end in the end. It's pretty neat. I will have to get a proper solo sprites run done, however, before that, in order to do that, so it could be a project. Alrighty, welcome to the Northtown Ruins. The Northtown Ruins actually have 3 separate orbs of weapons in it, and I'm gonna pick up the one for the sword in order to use that specifically on one of the bosses in the ruins. Which unfortunately means I have to grab the orb, then get out, and then upgrade and then go back in. But I think it is still overall faster to do this than to not do this. For 2 reasons. The next boss is another wall face type of deal. You remember the first one? We almost had to run one of the eyes out of magic in order to eventually defeat that thing, and it just took forever. And this is gonna be similar, except that proportionally to how much HP the wall face has, we actually deal a fair bit more damage with an upgraded sword and higher levels at this point. So that's kind of where we're standing on that end. Oh, I actually got hit there. That's unusual. Wait, did I equip stuff? Okay, I did equip stuff. It's very unusual to actually take any damage from these guys. It must have been a high damage roll. So, on air resume next. I don't know. Maybe the restream has a little bit of trouble? I can't really see the stream, obviously. So here
I will check real quick.
Yeah, here I grab the sword orb and upgrade the weapon and then come back inside. So we're actually not just upgrading the weapon for the wall face, although that is kind of a big reason. For the wall face alone, it would not be really worth to get back out and upgrade the weapon. However, it will be worth it for the boss afterwards, which is the vampire, who is... Well, it feels like the vampire is completely out of place, because it has over 1000 more HP than the previous boss. Like, basically as much HP as the 2 previous bosses combined, and some change. And on top of that, it just kind of can heal itself via energy absorb, and you can only hit it while it's just jumping around. So it's a huge RNG factor, and the more damage you deal per regular swing, the better, in order to shorten the fight. So the difference between dealing 5 more damage per swing or not can make a huge difference. Unfortunately, equipping the power wrist is not reasonable, because you would take too much damage. Like, here's the thing, you can do it. But because this is a marathon run, I don't want to do it, since it's not exactly safe. Alrighty. So we just run through the ruins here. You might also notice that we still have the yellow sword. Weapons do change color based on which upgrade level they are, and sometimes when you upgrade a weapon, it doesn't properly update. So I have to exchange the weapon back and forth in order to properly update it. Now we have a purple sword. Purple looks way better anyways.
I saw the red in the splits. Did you forget to split?
Oh, yeah, I did forget to split. I forgot to have the layout where it doesn't show up with the colors. Oops.
That's fine. I like it.
I could just remove the comparison. Alrighty, welcome to Doom's Wall. Doom's Face? No, Doom's Wall. This guy here, well, same concept as the previous boss. We just kill the eye on the left because it will continuously heal the center. We deny the damage from the eye on the right in order to not get knocked back and to be able to just continuously attack again and again and again. The center eye, once again, it can revive the eyes. The difference actually is, if you do in fact kill both eyes, it's not as big of a deal as it was in the previous encounter. Because instead of just insta-killing you once it, well, pushes you far enough down, it will instead just use two separate types of spells and abilities on you. One is just like a physical nuke, where rocks fall on your head. And the other one is where you just get grabbed by like some telekinesis power and dragged along the room where you can't do anything for a while. And really that's the big problem about getting both eyes killed in this case. While you don't instantly die, you can't do anything for a large portion because you will keep getting hit by that telekinesis attack and dragged along the room, so it's a lot less than ideal. Thunderbolt, by the way, costs 4 MP, which is twice as much as Energy Absorb. The eye on the right does have only 99 MP total, so if you'd like to keep count of how much MP it has used up so far, feel free to do so. Also, you may not notice something else that is actually very subtle, and it's not something I even knew about even after having speedrun the game for quite a long time, until at some point, I think Stinger told me about it. You may notice that my stamina actually recovers slightly faster. The more agility you have, the more, or the quicker your stamina recovers, also the quicker your charge bar actually levels up. It is in fact rather significant. Significant enough that in fact I can use charge attacks in order to deal a reasonable amount of damage to the center eye, while I'm trying to also deny damage at the same time. On the wall face I couldn't do that because I did not have enough time in between the spell casts, but here I actually do. Just barely, but it is just enough to weave in a charge attack in between spell casts. And that is 50% more damage. Which, by the way, if I say 50% more damage, you may see actually a larger change in numbers. The reason for this is because it is 50% more damage of the base damage I'm dealing, rather than 50% more damage of the final number, so to speak. What I mean with this is, let's say I deal 100 damage per swing. If an enemy has 50 defense, it is going to be 100 minus 50, just a straight subtraction, so to speak. And if I have 50% more damage, I would actually deal 150 damage total. Ooh, nice crit. So 150 minus 50 would be 100 damage, so it would appear more like I deal about like 100% more damage on that end, which is why saying it's 50% more damage is a little bit awkward in some cases. Although it's technically accurate, you just don't necessarily know how much actual defense a boss or enemy has in the first place. So here, in this case, this boss here we pretty much always kill before the eye on the right runs out of magic. Unless we get really unlucky with the chance to hit, that is, which is possible. The base damage gets increased by full defense reduction, yeah. The thing is, defense reduction is a flat number, which is why it is as much of a difference as it is. So if you have, let's say, percentage-based reduction through defense and percentage-based increase through, like, charge attacks, then it would not matter which operation comes first, it's just a multiplication either way. But because one is a flat number and the other one is not, that actually does matter. Is anybody else?
One of the most fun bosses.
Yeah, about that. Is anybody else a fan of spreadsheets? Like, I kind of like spreadsheets. I mean, you may have noticed that.
I like to look at spreadsheets. I don't like making spreadsheets.
Fair enough. So, by the way, you may have seen the screen go weird kind of grey and back just right now as well. If you have ever played the original, or actually even on the Mana collection on the Switch, you will see a pretty extreme flickering, like really fast, bright to normal to just white to normal to just white to normal. It's really unpleasant on the eyes. This is why I prefer the SNES Mini, personally, because it just tones down these flashing effects and makes them a lot more pleasant. And that's just an emulation thing, it's not actually a thing they changed in the ROM itself, so to speak. Kind of the external layer, if you will. Alrighty, welcome to Vampire. Vampire has like 2400 HP or something like that, and while it's flying around, I cannot hit it. I have to hope that Vampire decides to jump around rather than fly. And also I would like to not get eaten, because I can't really attack it while it's eating me. That's actually the difference between this guy and Spiky Tiger. Getting eaten while having a barrel equipped while it denies damage is not a whole lot else you can do. Also, I want him to, of course, knock out my allies. Which, by the way, fun fact, this guy can also not be hit with ranged weapons, kind of like Great Viper. On that note, worth noting that Great Viper is... the whip is not actually technically a ranged weapon. It's just a long-range melee weapon. It makes sense. So either way, this guy's just flying around and cast spells from up there, and I can't do anything about that. Also, if he continuously uses Sleep Ring, he can technically combo me from 100 HP to 0. It's very unlikely for that to happen, but this is part of the big reason as to why I'm actually wearing the Frosty Band rather than the Power Wrist. This is just a lot less damage here. So yeah, he will just continuously knock me unconscious. At some point he will just cast another spell, like Freeze right here. It will knock me back, and I actually can do stuff again. So, I'm gonna heal before the spell actually arrives. I will get healed before the spell hits, but I'm gonna deny the spell damage anyways. And during this healing animation, I actually can't deny more damage. So the biggest problem we have in this fight is him casting Energy Absorb, because it also heals him. I don't really care about the damage. Obviously I would prefer if Vampire would actually just jump around the entire time, that way I could also hit him. But Energy Absorb is just kind of the worst case scenario. So the Vampire has a very predictable pattern once it starts jumping. It's actually very much based on which position I am standing in. Or more specifically, the character that is closest to the Vampire, so to speak. It will do a high jump if no character is close and just land on the character that is the closest, well in this case the boy, because there's not really anybody else. And it will do a swipe attack if your characters are close but not in the front of him. Like, swipe attack with his claws will inflict poison and deal a good chunk of damage. Technically, baiting out the claw swipe attack and then avoiding it by just stepping away just in time is the most optimal way to play this fight here. But practically, that's very difficult to achieve, since it's a very tiny window of opportunity to get out of the claw attack range after triggering it. So I just let him jump up high and hit him as soon as he lands. Also here, he's just energy absorbing the entire time. I believe in my first practice run I did like a week or two ago with the solo boy here. The vampire actually trolled me for an entire additional like 7 or 8 minutes, I think. Because he kept casting energy absorb and not letting me, well, cast any spells. He will eventually run out of magic. And I do not necessarily run out of resources to deal with him, most of the time. So I have to use a barrel before the sleep ring hits me. The sleep ring is a physical attack, so using a barrel before that will just entirely deny it. I could just keep the barrel equipped, but I have to quickly remove it when he is coming down, and I can't hit him from outside the barrel, because removing the barrel just removes my stamina and I don't deal damage with attacks. Freeze is my favorite spell here, because it eventually runs him out of magic. Okay, the main reason I immediately remove barrels is in case he jumps down like that and just fakes me out, at least I get to try and hit him. One more. Freeze. You can see he actually does have unique animation for each one of its abilities and spells. Alright, I hope I'm standing in the correct position, otherwise we're gonna lose some items here. Let's see. 0 and 0, perfect.
Nice. I'm guessing he also has just 99 MP like every other boss.
Yes, most bosses have 99 MP.
Yeah, just making sure.
Yeah. The exceptions really are stuff like the Great Viper, which only has 8. I think Dragonworm has like 30? Something like that. Wow. I mean, as long as he doesn't cast energy absorb, I guess I'm okay with that. That's freeze. I don't actually know what the probability is of this guy jumping back down. No idea.
Seems like 10%.
It seems like 10% right now. But yeah, this is where the solo character challenge runs with the lady as well as the sprite. They just nuke this guy with spells. Especially the sprite just makes quick work of this guy very easily. The lady, well, takes a little bit longer, but she will just still nuke him in like 1.5 minutes, as opposed to the boy, which is just struggling for... How long are we here? 5 minutes now?
It's been a while. Yeah. Is this guy actually weak to Lumina?
Yes, he is.
Okay, I wasn't sure, because I remembered the wall is weak to Lumina,
Actually,
but I wasn't sure about this one.
It is actually not weak to Lumina.
That might be a randomizer quirk then, that I'm thinking of.
Might be.
My bad.
Or maybe, so here's the thing, I might be wrong on that. I just know this guy is technically weak to Lumina, even if you don't have Lumina yet. I don't think the wall is, but I might be mistaken. Because... could be.
No, I might have to look this up actually.
Yep. I'm curious as well. Alright. Jump. Boing, hit. Aim. By the way, at this point it's about like a 35, 33-ish % chance to miss rather than the previous 40%. So our agility is getting better compared to this enemy's evasion. And for that matter, on that note, there's not really any enemies that have more or less evasion. Generally speaking, they either have evasion, they do not. That's kind of all there is to this. It's not technically true. There is one specific enemy that has 3 less evasion than anything else. but it doesn't really count. In case you're wondering, it's the green owls. The green owls, like outside that Tango's one.
Alright, so this wiki I found, which is always accurate of course, tells me that Doomswall is in fact weak to Lumina.
Okay, nice. Yeah, it sounds reasonably possible, it just never really comes up, at least not in regular play.
That's right, yeah. In randomizer it would, of course, yeah.
Yep. I'm just trying to position myself to replenish my barrels again, because apparently I have to do that again soon. Whoop. Okay, dumping. Oh. Okay, that was lucky. If I get hit right there by the jump attack, I can get knocked unconscious, and from that HP, it would not have been too unlikely that he would kill me with the correct sequence of abilities and spells at that point. So, I want to be a little bit careful. In fact, I'm just gonna heal instead. Also, I'm standing exactly below its shadow because the vampire just homes in on the closest character and just has a lot of momentum, and yeah, basically it has a lot of momentum. So it's a little bit awkward for me to try and get him to stand still once he gets moving. This is mainly just to try and hit him as soon as he comes down. Wow, he's not playing along at all today. At this rate, this is going to take longer than Wallface, which is normally the slowest boss.
I think we're coming up to almost 10 minutes.
That sounds about right. The split is actually 12 minutes, so it takes like 2 minutes until you get there, so yeah, that's 10 minutes already on this guy.
Yeah.
Yep. That missing really doesn't help our case here. He might be out of magic soon at this rate. I don't usually run this guy out of magic.
I mean, to be fair, this is pretty much just what happens if you don't use magic.
Yeah.
Even in like normal speedruns where you use all three characters, where you would do the overcharge glitch, he can just be a troll and you can't hit him. It just can't happen. It's just how it is. There is a specific setup to force him to get hit in the at the very start, but like if you miss that or if he gets out of that, then there's not much you can do.
Actually, it's random whether he even does the first jump or not. If he does the first jump, you most likely can get him, unless you get really unlucky, as long as you execute properly. Also, I have no idea why my menu bar at the bottom just has this weird graphical glitch at this point. It
does that sometimes on spellcasts, yeah. I don't know, I think it just doesn't correctly reapply the palette for it, or something? I don't know.
Probably.
Or the...
Yeah. At this point, it's just so normal that these things happen that I don't even acknowledge them usually. But there's not a whole lot else to talk about here. There we go, that took a while.
Nice.
Alright, compared to my splits, I lost a bit more than 7 minutes. That's impressive, in all the wrong ways. Alright. Just gonna make the timer green here, so it doesn't look as terrible. Alrighty, so Vampire Dawn, which is the worst boss for a while to come, for that matter. It really doesn't help that it has, as mentioned before, over 1000 more HP than the previous bosses. So you can imagine why I went back to upgrade the sword earlier. It just helps a little bit to mitigate this guy just jumping around for hours at a time. By the way, in case you're wondering, the estimate does account for these kinds of instances. It does also account for me dying somewhere along the way, which hasn't occurred yet. But we will likely see something along these lines sometime. So here, I'm actually going to knock out my allies before I go into the cutscene, just because that's a little bit easier. Also, it's technically possible to die against the next two sets of bosses, so I'm going to save. It's very unlikely. But as a solo character, you're never really safe, for real. Let's be real. Alrighty, we go in here and we learn that the knights and the empire that just attacked us earlier and knocked out two of my characters to be ghosts, hey, they're friendly now, they want to have a banquet and talk with us. You may have seen this in some other games, which actually is an interesting discussion point. A lot of people know that there was a lot of content cut from Seeker of Mana, because they had to, in the middle of development, like reschedule it in order to be fit on a cartridge rather than on a CD system what they initially planned. And the theory is, at least mine is, that the content that got cut kind of got redistributed into other games as well, which is why there's not exactly like a list of cut content that you could re-implement, rather it's just, well, it's part of other games too at this point. Like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy 6, maybe 5 too. Kind of most likely the case. Alrighty, so upcoming we have Metal Mantis. Metal Mantis is actually a lot like the previous Mantis Ant boss. And both Metal Mantis and the Mantis Ant boss actually have a lot of times where they are invulnerable to getting hit. And wait, I can get again engulfed in flames. That shouldn't be possible. I thought the Frosty Ring prevented that. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh well.
Well.
Alrighty, either
This
way, the strategy is I hit him
hurts.
and then go away. Go ahead.
He is actually pretty strong if you don't upgrade your equipment. Like, I know from Randomizer that he one-shots you if you don't buy equipment here.
Oh yeah, he can definitely hit like a truck.
Can he also put you to sleep like Mantis Ant can?
Yes, if you get hit by the little saw blades, but those are projectiles and get absorbed by ghosts as well, so I don't intentionally get them absorbed, but it's just what happens when I walk around, because the ghost's just trailing behind me, like right there.
Accidentally, of course. Oh.
Yeah.
You actually got hit.
Indeed. Also that laser beam there got absorbed by the ghost. I just tried to get away from him so I can dodge it, but well.
He has very few HP though, so he's a quick kill.
Yeah. So the thing is, the next two bosses don't really have much to say about whether we progress further or not. The sword at this point is a pretty competent weapon, with having gotten all the upgrades so far. So it deals pretty solid damage with even the regular swings. And since they don't really have much of a way of being invulnerable for an extended period of time, unlike some other bosses, they are going to go down reasonably quickly even without spells. Bonk, there we go. Just knocking out my allies. As I mentioned at the beginning, solo character challenge run is, well, it's more of a challenge run rather than a traditional speedrun. There's not exactly anybody else who runs this kind of thing aside from me. I am trying to go fast, but at the same time, I do have some rules that a lot of them are a bit arbitrary. which I suppose is kind of the nature of speedrun categories in the first place, let's be real. Either way, what I like to do is I try to keep the other characters at the lowest possible level, and that is mainly for style points. If any of the characters ever accidentally level up, it's like, whatever. Don't think that's that big of a deal. But... oh, that guy's actually moving, that's unusual. But yeah, if any of the other characters ever accidentally level up, not that big of a deal, move on and just continue afterwards. Something like that, or if they ever accidentally kill something, whatever. It's not that strict. Alrighty, so here we have Mech Rider number 2. Like number 1, as soon as he gets on my vertical position, he will dash across and start, well, charging at me. Big difference here is that he can't charge across. Because, well, I'm at the very bottom of the arena. Uh-oh, that might be bad. Okay, fine. I'm at the very bottom of the arena and he literally has too large of a collision box to be able to go any further down at this point. So, well, he's not particularly happy about this, as you might be able to imagine. So I can't just stand here and he will never do anything aside from counterattack as soon as I hit him. Kind of like the previous one, where he will cast speed up on himself and then he will counterattack with abilities and attacks. He has either missiles or a wave cannon attack. Here's the wave cannon. It's a physical ability, so we can just deny it via the use of using a barrel.
Is this wave cannon as strong as the one from the third one?
Yes. I
Okay.
think it's actually called slightly different, like plasma cannon or something like that.
Yeah, but all I remember is it hurts.
Yes. That's a very, very powerful physical attack. You prefer not to get hit by it. And yes, 1Play2 controller speedruns or this game are a thing. It's traditionally the most run category, even if it seems like a little bit daunting. And hey Crow, thank you for the good luck. Welcome to you, I hope you're doing well. Also for that matter, welcome to anybody, I hope you have a nice day. And stuff is starting to get a little bit more complicated at this point. Also, I'm going to automatically lose like 4 minutes or so because I accidentally didn't save at the beginning of the game. So there's that too. So, we are going to get Flammy here, which means we finally have a companion that allows us to more or less freely travel around the world. And as it is tradition with these kinds of games, as soon as we are unleashed on the world on our own volition, we start kind of messing it up a little bit. And the way we start with this is, first of all, I'm going to buy the best equipment that is available at this point. If you play this game casually, you will probably not be able to upgrade your equipment to this point here anytime soon, because this is kind of a major step up compared to what you have before. Like, this is a lot more defense, like a lot.
Yeah, this stuff is really expensive, even for comparison. In a randomizer, if you have 3 times money, you can barely afford 1 set here.
Yes.
So
you run through anyways.
Yeah. Well, usually you end up killing a lot of stuff too, so... But yeah, this is probably not affordable, normally.
Yeah, unless you do like a grind in previous sections, because you know what's coming up for money purposes. Which is something you can do, I suppose. So, I bought a lot of Kraken helmets, kind of like before. The Lazuri ring actually gives you +5 intelligence, which is good for the sprite's magic power. But here we just use it for defense purposes. For the most part, most enemies can no longer hurt us, even the ones that are more or less current content, if you will. So it is a huge upgrade for defense. Did the ghost block some missiles? You seem the missiles explode in air instead of sticking to a single target like arrows. They do absorb missiles, yes. Well, let's put it this way. The missiles explode in an area, and they don't hit a single character. but basically where the missiles do explode can be triggered by ghosts, if that makes sense. So we needed to talk to this old guy on the wall, which unlocks getting the Gold City Tower key from Mara here, which is why we needed to talk to her earlier already, otherwise she would still have the dialogue from before. Then we are going to go to an even earlier area than this one here. Actually, how many... No, this is fine. I need to double check how many item slots I have available. Normally, item slots in casual play are not a concern, because you can never actually fill all of them up, but because I glitched multiple stacks of the same item into my inventory, I could actually technically try to grab a key item like the Flammy Drum, and because I have too many items, I will not actually get that item. That is a possibility. Don't recommend. Alrighty. By the way, Watts is gone from this section right here. He would still be here if you never talked to him in the upper lands. Kind of an interesting trigger. Also, we go back to the dwarf here, and he gives us the Mitch Mallet. We could have technically gotten this way earlier, even before fighting the Spring Beak, if you just go back to him after defeating the Jabberwocky, basically. And the Mitch Mallet is effectively an infinite use item that we can use in order to deny damage. That's kind of all this is used for in the Solo Cactus Challenge run for the boy. That way I don't have to constantly like recharge my barrels, and they're gonna be used less and less, so to speak. Alrighty, now, next order of operation, I need to make the boy a little bit stronger than before. So, some of you might be familiar with a nice little glitch that involves the Frost Forest Nico. So this is gonna be a bit complicated, but I also have a bit of time to explain stuff here. So first of all... Oh, I need to actually kill off my allies here before we land. So, real quick, the way it works to save your game is the game takes note of where you last entered the screen from, and that is the place that you're going to start again from. So if you save at an inn, it will actually spawn you at the entrance of that inn. Makes sense, right? However, if you land at this Frost Forest Nico here, with Flammy, the variable for where you entered this room from is actually not set. What this means is that we're going to save here as a game. And if I try to load this save file here now, it crashes the game. Because the game has no idea where to load you in as a character, where to place you. So it's not entirely sure what to do about that. So it just doesn't load anything, and you see a black screen. Now, some of you might be aware of the mana sword glitch that you can use or make in this game in order to get the mana sword early. I'm going to be pretty much doing exactly that. And this is why I should have created a save file at the very beginning of the game, so I wouldn't have to watch the intro again and again. This is going to lose me like 3 or 4 minutes because of, well, me forgetting about that. But we should still be within the estimate easily. Either way, what I'm gonna do is I'm effectively going to abuse that save file that I just created. I created a save file that has no location entered as to where you're supposed to spawn. Now, there's a way to soft reset this game by holding Start Select L and R. And if you hold Start Select L and R for a few seconds, the game actually has not yet erased all the memory data on what is going on. It hasn't erased which character you're controlling or where you are, well, where you last entered the screen from. So what we're gonna do is we're going to enter the Mantis Ant Arena, and then we're going to hold Start Select L and R for a few seconds in order to, well, reset the game, but without wiping out all the data, Then we load that save file that we saved at the Frost Forest Nico. With that, we will be able to effectively load our save back into the arena with the Mantis Ant. And that is actually very unique to Mantis Ant, that you can save warp into that arena specifically in order to fight him again. Most bosses don't actually respawn even if you re-enter their arena again. They just don't. It's really strange actually as to why that even happens. So in this case, I will be able to defeat the Mantis Ant again, and consequently I will get an additional sword orb from him. So right now we have, I think, a level 6 sword, if I'm not mistaken. Or was it level 5? Might be, actually it's level 5. We currently have a level 5 sword on our regular play file, and we will be able to use that orb to upgrade to level 6. Then we're actually gonna do this 2 more times after that. Don't worry, the subsequent times are not gonna be as slow, because I'm going to go ahead and save here, and I need to make sure that I don't save over the previous save file. That would be a disaster and a half. So yeah, we're gonna get 3 additional sword orbs, which actually is not yet the mana sword. And the reason for that is gonna be kind of obvious once I get to it, but let me focus on this so I don't accidentally save over the wrong save file. Yes, save over this one. By floop. Alright, good. Spooky. So, alrighty. Now we start the Mantis Ant fight. Gonna hold start, select L and R as soon as we enter the arena. And then we load the Frost Forest Nico save file, and with that character we're gonna spawn inside the Mantis Ant arena. And we're defeating him again. It's gonna give us the entire cutscene afterwards, and well, then we're just back there again. So, now the reason why you don't want to do this more than 3 times at this point, in fact, if you play this casually and plan on completing the Pure Lands, you do not want to do this more than twice at this point. Just twice, not more. Alright, we do hold start, select L and R. This resets. Then we load the Frost Forest Nico. Boom, we are back here with the Mantis Ant. We have way more damage, it only has 150 HP, 2 hits are gonna be enough. That is number 1 of 3. So, whenever you're supposed to get another orb, but you already have the maximum amount of orbs, the game is not prepared to handle that. And as a consequence, you will softlock the game at that point. For example, Thundergigas is the next boss that gives you a sword orb, as well as the King of Tatnica gives you another sword orb. Either one of those dialogues and events are just gonna get completely broken because you never received a sword orb, and the game just locks up at that point. And you can no longer do anything from that point onwards. At least you cannot progress normally. So, this is why we only do this 3 times, right? Because we could technically get the mana sword already if we were to do this 4 times. But we could not get past Tasnik. Now I do have a method of getting or avoiding having to defeat the Thundergigas, which is why I can do it 3 times rather than just 2. Also worth noting that I can just hold up and B in order to land as early as possible in the ice country. Because I need to just knock out my allies every time before they get experience from the Mantis and with a defeat here. Oh, thank you. But yeah, if anybody has any questions about these things, I think I mostly explained stuff, but maybe I forgot something. Feel free to ask. So we just load the save file we saved just before defeating Mantis Ant, and just go back into Mantis Ant again. Mantis Ant at the 3-hour time mark. Yep. That's how it works. Maybe it's something worth noting. You do not need the mana sword in order to beat the game. It's not required. The reason why we get it is for two reasons. One, it has literally twice as much base attack power as any other weapon, and thus it's just insanely much more powerful. And two, it never misses. You know how annoying it was until now where 40% of the time I was swinging, I was just not hitting the enemy? Well, with the mana sword, that's not gonna happen anymore. Enemies and bosses still have times where they are completely invulnerable because they are shielding themselves or because they are casting a spell. But beyond that, they will no longer be able to dodge my attacks at that point. One, two. Alrighty, one more. Also, you might be noticing that I'm actually gathering the party in one spot after bosses. Well, I try to usually. That is because your party gathers after you defeat the bosses, and it's a slightly faster animation. Ring. Right here. There. That's where they try to get to the same spot. I feel like Gemma must be really confused at this point. Haven't you done this? Like, I have a deja vu right here. Maybe this is a good time to mention, if you'd like to see a true solo character challenge run where we remove the other people from the party before we enter the mana fortress, there's still that donation incentive that you can reach. Maybe? Maybe not. It's up to you. Alrighty. Fly away. You have a question. The train leaves the Mantis end station, heading west at 50 kilometers and the sprite was a ball north at 20 kilometers. What's the favorite boss in this game? I thought you were actually going to ask a math question. Wow. My favorite boss is Hexus, I would say, in the original. Just because of how weird and how many different phases she has, while casually you might not even know about them. Kind of funny.
Hexus is cool. I like Hexus too.
Yeah. In the remake, my favorite boss is actually the Mana Beast. I actually love the Mana Beast fight in the remake. It's actually really well done. The sound effects just work really well for that fight. Even if there's some other things that might not be, well, as desirable. Alrighty, and last time we're gonna defeat Mantis Ant. It's like a bad dream. We keep waking up from it again and again. Actually, the first time it's like a bad dream. What? Suddenly gigantic monsters attacking us and you barely defeat it. And you might even need some help from this friendly stranger to revive you. And then, the next subsequent times where you just wake up from this bad dream, you go just like, oh, go away, and you just slash it away at this point. That's how I like to imagine what is happening here. Sometimes I like to imagine what actually would happen in-game, like logic-wise and lore-wise, whenever you execute certain glitches and such. Like, when you start an overcharge attack, where the character is just focusing really hard on executing a strong move with the current weapon, and then the character just gets really confused because suddenly somebody else hands him another weapon and tries to execute the same attack and stuff just goes really weird. Either way, with this we now are capable of upgrading our sword up to the Dragon Buster, and that is very convenient. the Dragon Buster is our weapon of choice for the subsequent places here. If you would like to have a solo character challenge run that uses more of a variety of weapons, I do believe the lady uses like 2 more than the boy does in the end. 4 bosses anyways. So we're gonna land here real quick. Did I ever equip the new equipment? Because I tend to forget that. Okay.
Good question. Yeah.
Alright, which one is ready? The sword. The sword again. And the sword again. Welcome to the Dragon Buster, which in casual play is actually the highest level sword you can normally get without glitches. And fun fact, you will always have the highest level sword after you complete the Pure Lands. That... Don't save here, save here. I need that save file.
Oof.
I mean, I could just redo it before I erase the continent, but this is faster. Alrighty, now we're gonna visit a friendly giant slime that is actually not so friendly. Or I suppose it's just testing us. Now I ask you, chat, and that's going to come up in just a moment. What happens if you stand near a, well, pole which you normally hit with a whip in order to jump across, and you equip a barrel on your head? What do you think would happen? Hitting this switch activates that rope wall up there, so we can jump across in just a moment. By the way, these red guys are not normally as aggressive as they are. Normally they just cast a spell and you can casually walk past them every time. Kind of interesting. Oh, I needed the whip. Oops. Oh well. That chest contains 1,000 gold, in case you're curious. Whenever I watch speedruns of RPGs, and on the speedrun that just runs blatantly past some chest that, oh my goodness, I don't know what's in there, I wanna know. Even if I played the game casually, usually I won't remember every single chest, obviously. So that's why I like actually mentioning, hey, that's 1,000 gold. So, basically not useful. Unless you want to actually spawn more enemies, then you actually want to pick up the chest. So, we have a whip equipped, we stand next to a rope pull, we equip a barrel. What happens? We turn in a circle, the barrel is really weird and we jump to the right. Obviously.
Duh!
Duh. Oh, lady, don't get stuck there, please. By the way, if you want to be fancy, you can kill these guards here, enemy dudes. And if you drop a chest, you have a chance to get a rare drop from them. That is a gauntlet. If you want to be overpowered at this point in the game, even more so than just upgrading the sword to this level, the gauntlet has 250 matching defense, meaning literally no spell will do any meaningful damage to you anymore at that point. Like, it's gonna be literally 1. With the exception of Evil Gate. That's the one exception, actually. Okay, this is Lime Slime. It is weak to fire. And unfortunately, it still has evasion. So my chance to hit might just kind of be less than ideal. Not much we can do about that. But as you can see, we deal 100 damage per regular swing without even charging up our weapon. That is very respectable. These bubbles from the ceiling, they actually will not deal damage to us unless we are specifically getting high rolled by the slime. Like that. But it's still not much damage because we have really high defense equipment. But for the most part, it's not terribly dangerous to get hit by most things. Evil Gate is actually a percentage-based damage attack. It will deal damage relative to how much HP you have. Alright, actually I can use a candy barrel here, I forgot about this. That would be more efficient. Candy barrel, once again, you use a healing item before you use the barrel. And the game goes weird. Suddenly you attack like 5 times in a row. It's really weird. It does not work on a lot of bosses, or even most bosses for that matter. However, it does work on Lime Slime because it does not have getting hurt animation that actually... what's the word? It doesn't have a getting hurt animation that makes it invulnerable for the time being. Maybe it's a decased IO cannon barrel. It might be. It deals enough damage for one. Can't believe I forgot the candy barrel for this one. My favorite strategy. Yeah, he should be dead soon. I don't know how many fairy walnuts or chocolates I have left because of the menu just glitching out during this fight naturally. Which, by the way, the reason why the glitchless category is always called the quote-unquote glitchless category is because there's no avoiding some glitches. Oh, I only have one barrel left apparently. Well, that sack is gone. It's not technically true, I can replenish it, but we don't need 4 stacks of barrels anymore. By the way, I did not hit the slime there, even though I'm standing on top of it, because I was facing to the left rather than down or up. Because facing to the left, your barrel hitbox obviously is just kind of a line below your feet. A horizontal line that is. I mean, I don't know why. It's just how it works somehow. There we go. Bonk.
Yeah, but I believe this boss has 5,000 HP. Is that right? That is a lot.
No, that's the next one. The next slime. This one has like 2,500 or so.
Really? I do remember this guy having a lot of HP, though, for where he is.
Well, I think it's about slightly more than Vampire. It is a lot more than the other bosses anyways, that's true.
This wiki tells me 3,500. It must be correct because it's a wiki.
Well, I mean, that sounds reasonably accurate actually.
Yeah.
I don't usually count how much damage I deal as much as I just count how many spells I throw at it. And that's kind of how I approximate how much, or, well, how many times I need to cast spells again.
That is a very fair way to do it, to be fair.
Facing left was clear, not the right way. Well, facing right doesn't help much either. Should we get the Moogle belt?
I mean, sure.
I'm going the wrong way. Oh no, where's the... Oh, there it is. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, one of the most fun things about this game is that flying on the world map is actually impossible, because you won't remember where you are, ever. Like, it's just not possible to remember where you are on the world map.
It's super weird navigating the world map. It just doesn't make much sense in my book.
No, it doesn't.
I get lost all the time. And I'm supposed to be good at this game.
I think everybody does though. Like, I don't know a person that's like, yeah, I know this world map like the back of my hand. No
Actually,
problem.
I think Stinger does, for the most part.
Yeah, but he doesn't run the game anymore.
Sometimes. Alrighty, welcome to Blue Kitty Cat. So, 2 fun facts about the Blue Kitty Cat. It does not usually have enough damage, or attack power, to damage me. Which means I get knocked down to the floor, and I get back up. Which is my entire battle strategy here. Get knocked down to the floor, get back up. So, what I'm basically doing here is... The default animation for when you don't take damage from the blue spike is you get knocked down to the floor heavy, as if I took more than 25% of my maximum HP and damage in one swing. That is the heavy knockdown animation. And the heavy knockdown animation just so happens to also have a property to it, where you deal damage around you while you're getting up. That's kind of what I call the get up attack. So right here, boom, when the sword appears, this is kind of where an attack hitbox appears around you. And coincidentally, it also happens to be that this is when the game tries to figure out, oh, you're at charge level 4, so we deal charge level 4 damage, which by the way is 200% damage. or plus 200% damage. So a total of 300% damage with a charge level 4 attack. So basically I'm just charging up my attack, hope that the blue spike is cooperating and just trying to eat me without dealing enough damage. And that's how I defeat it.
I'm curious, how would the other two deal with this guy? Because I know he has relatively high magic defense.
The sprite actually still has enough power to just knock him out anyways, even through the magic defense.
Okay.
And the lady, well, she does the same thing as the boy here. She does level actually the spear up to level 4 in order to be able to deal slightly more damage, because the spear has slightly higher base damage for her, since she does not go and... Hang on, I need to stop here real quick. One, just two. Sorry. So yeah, the lady does not actually go and use the Mantis Ant method of getting the mana sword, because that would involve using the boy, and I just kind of decided that's outside of the challenge, because he would be using another character for that purpose, so to speak. I think he should be dead very soon. Oh, that's not good, that's not good, that's not good. Don't kill him. Okay, we're fine. Alright, hang on. Either way, the lady just uses the spear and does the same get-up attack. I think I might even go with like a level 5 charge attack or so. The Oceanic Spear you can just get outside in the first chest. Alright, what was not good there, just now, basically, when you get grabbed by certain enemies, like the eating attack, for example, by this guy, as well as... Really? So the eating attack by this guy, as well as like the vampire grabbing a character, or the Doomswall grabbing characters by telekinesis. That is actually a very strange method of hang on, need to focus a little. It's a very strange method of transportation, and that method of transportation actually can drag you outside the normal boundaries of where your character can go. So normally, when you play this game, one of the annoyances is that you cannot go too far away from your allies. You're kind of like stuck in that invisible box inside the screen radius with each other, where the screen starts scrolling. You cannot go outside of that normally. However, certain enemy and boss attacks can drag you outside that box, and if they do, well, the problem with this is actually that if you do and you defeat the bosses while you're still outside that box, you will not be able to gather your party at the end of a boss fight, and that will softlock your game. Alright, here we are in phase 2. Also, by the way, this guy is normally supposed to be blue, but he's not blue. Because I hit him before I hit him before he transformed from a statue into a regular phase. Either way, phase 2 he does this attack instead of the full charge from up to the bottom. And basically I need to stay far enough away for him to do this charge type attack, but not too far, so he's still going to do the charge attack instead of cast Earth Slide on me. Earth Slide deals about 500 damage. This guy has more magic power than the Dark Lich. It's ridiculous. And normally he hits all 3 characters with Earth Slide, so of course you would normally survive it with a regular party, but you die if you do play this guy with a solo character. Unless you farm the gauntlet from the Dark Knights in the Palace of Darkness. And this is the, by the way, shout out to, who was it, Chokashura from YouTube?
Indeed.
Yeah. Basically, this strategy I just used, where I just let the Gorgon Bowl charge up and down rather than cast spells, I stole that effectively from Chokashura on YouTube, who did a solo character low-level playthrough of this game, using all kinds of glitches to have as low of a character level on just the lady as possible. And it's a pretty neat run overall. I haven't checked out the entire thing, but there's some strategies that I've learned. Alrighty, and we have sealed the mana seed of light and darkness at this point. So, of course, this allows us to seal the mana seed of moon. Well, actually, let's put it this way. Sealing the mana seed of the moon, or getting Luna for that matter, is basically the trigger just to complete the Gold City Tower. So you can actually get Luna before you need to defeat Lime Slime. Really. But every single solo character I run with my strategy just goes and defeats Lime Slime first anyways. Also, Gorgon Bolt's attack I abused just earlier is really weird. So initially he just charges up and down and he deals damage kind of as you would expect. He just charges you with his horns and he deals damage. However, oh, I needed that one. Don't kill her. Also, Magic Absorb for some reason gets defaulted or default targeted to the boy. I don't know why. That's just how it is. But yeah, the first attack or phase of Gorgon Bull is what you would expect basically. But the second phase, his attack where he charges at you and does that claw attack, for some reason, it only deals damage at the very tail end of that attack, so you can just straight up walk through his hitbox while he's doing that. Chest? Oh, right. Chest. So the two chests I skipped by in the Gold City Tower were the Spear Orb, which actually brings your spear up to level 6, and the Axe Orb up top, which also brings your axe up to level 6. And what I mean with that is, I have not picked up any of the Spear Orb beyond the first one in the chest. And these chests actually catch you up to what level of orb you're supposed to have at that point. So what this means is, I can actually open, or could have opened the chest with the Axe Orb about 3 times, 2 or 3 times, and gotten 2 or 3 Axe Orbs out of it, because I missed those Axe Orb in previous areas already. So the orb chests effectively spawn or respawn as long as you haven't reached X amount of orbs at that point. And that's kind of the story of those. Alrighty, here we arrive at Tasnica. After you clear Luna, you can go here. And you find Gemma at the entrance there, but it's actually not an automatically initiated cutscene. The trigger is literally just one step ahead of you, so you can just walk around it. Kinda funny actually, you just leave him hanging there at the entrance. So here we talk with the king. It turns out the king is currently a doppelganger or something like that. We defeat the Dark Stalker, which, fun fact, this Dark Stalker does not actually give experience. I figured that out recently when I defeated him without, well, killing off the allies first. I don't know why.
That's really weird. It does drop chests, right? So you can technically get drops. Yeah.
Yes. Which, by the way, enemies at this stage in the game, they drop chests that... chest? No chest. That have a chance for a trap, which is a 50-50 chance to get a trap in the first place, and then a 1 in 16 chance for the trap to instantly kill you. And here we get the Sword Orb. So, as mentioned before, if I got enough Sword Orbs to upgrade my sword to the Mana Sword, this would softlock right here. I could no longer proceed the normal way. There is means to proceed after this. Words. There is means to proceed after this, if you know how to glitch your way into the trials, but this cutscene here specifically would softlock. But also, that scene there specifically is also what I use for the sprite to get the mana sword as well. However, the solo sprite character run actually does get the mana sword in a much more roundabout way, because you actually complete Tasnica twice in order for that to work. Since the sprite, I don't allow the solo character sprite to go and grab the orbs from Mantis Ant, since that would involve using the boy. So it makes for an interesting route. You didn't know the chest would do that? Yeah, it's really neat that they just allow you to catch up, so to speak. Now, the thing is, if you, let's say, forget a chest that catches you up to a certain level of orbs until later, and then you get that specific weapon orb from a boss, that chest will no longer be there, and consequently you will have to grind out another sword orb in the Mana Fortress. Technically, you are never locked out of any of the orbs in the game. However, you will need to go and farm just more in the Mana Fortress if you happen to miss one or two permanently.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Maybe. Also, by the way, the boss cutscene soft locking after receiving an orb is most likely also the reason as to why the two bosses inside the Mana Fortress do not actually give you any weapon orbs. I did not even realize that until way late after I started running this game, that those two bosses never even give you any weapon orbs. Oh. So the Red Slime and Buffy inside the Mana Fortress don't give you weapon orbs, and my assumption is there's actually exactly 2 orbs missing to make all the orbs equally, acquirable from the game. And my assumption is that it's to prevent or players from soft-locking the game if they happen to get the orbs before beating the bosses. That's just my idea. Kind of fits in line with how they handle the rest of, like, their bug fixes and such. Because the reason why you can't, by the way, use Frost Forest Nico in the European version of the game is because they literally just removed the landing point with Nico. You just land in the Frost country instead, in the default location. Either way, there is 2 weapon orbs that you have to farm too if you play this game casually in the Mana Fortress. And those are the Axe and the Claw orb. Now, fun fact, there is actually 2 inaccessible chests in the underground, which you actually do not get to see in this run because we're gonna skip it. Spoilers. In the underground of the Sunken Continent, there is a room where you normally find the rebels and what's in, and also the lady that heals you. You know, the little safe room after the Hydra, basically. And in that room, or more specifically, in that room, in a duplicate of that room, where the monsters are spawning, outside of bounds, so to speak, that are completely inaccessible, there's 2 chests. And those 2 chests contain an Axe Orb and a Sword Orb. So it actually allows you to get all the Axe Orbs, so to speak, but it does not allow you to get the Sword Orbs. The Claw Orbs. My assumption is that these chests were put in there as a substitute for you not getting enough orbs from the bosses anymore, but they kind of put them into the wrong, like, version of the rooms. Or something like that. Either way, that's just a theory though. Although it doesn't entirely make sense because you're missing different orb. Does the re-release of the game fix a certain sword up count from keeping you from progressing? Well, you can't... Yes, actually it does. For the Secret of Mana remake, if you have already a Mana sword early, or too many sword orbs, it doesn't care about that. You can just proceed as normal. Did I keep the Frost Forest Nico save file earlier?
I believe you did, yeah. It's from the save file from before you did the farming, right?
Yes.
Yep, I think so.
Alright. Also, when did I accidentally level up the sprite and the lady? Oh well.
I was going to ask about that, because I noticed that they have 90 HP, but I didn't see where they leveled.
Yeah. When did I do that? Oh well. But to answer your question, probably in the other Super Nintendo versions, like the European version, they probably did not fix weapon orbs soft locking your game if you have too many, because through normal gameplay that cannot occur. Gonna be a little bit more difficult to knock out the sprite and the lady from here on out, but not too much, because the enemies deal like 200 damage at this point, so it should be fine. Alrighty, upcoming is actually an interesting boss. It's basically a watermelon on legs with teeth. It's kinda spooky. So if you dress up as a vegetable for Halloween, I recommend this one, because, yeah. Either way, you may notice that the mana sword I have now deals 250 damage per swing, which is a lot of damage. So, this guy here, he often casts spells if you are too close to him, so you actually want to stay relatively far away from this guy in order to not get nuked by the spells. So what I'm doing here effectively is I'm gonna go over here, go far enough away that he hopefully does not cast burst, but instead jumps up. He's gonna jump up right here. Then he's going to land on my character, and he will zip across the screen as long as I'm close enough. So that's kind of the trick with this boss. If you're far enough away, he will just only jump up and then go again. So here he will jump. Yeah. He will actually spam spells so quickly, his burst spell does a lot of damage too. He will spam spells so quickly that he will often override his own damage because he just casts another spell before the previous one has finished. It's actually kind of silly. But yeah, thanks to the mana sword's regular attack dealing 250 damage basically, it's just not that big of a deal to deal with this guy, as long as I don't get killed. He does deal good damage. If I'm not careful, that is. And there we go. So yeah, upgrading to the mana sword is not normally something I can do in the game normally without using glitches. The mana sword is only supposed to be unleashed once you use the 2 mana spells on the sword after defeating Dark Lich with Dryad magic. That is specifically when you're supposed to receive the mana sword. However, because it is coded like a regular upgrade of the sword, if you have one too many sword orbs, you can in fact get it early. Actually winning this fight feels weird now. Fair. Yeah, in every other category that used glitches anyways, you actually die in this fight at that point. But with a solo character, you can't exactly do that. Also here we get the Riot magic. And this is Rise of the Continent from the ashes. Well, actually more like from the seafloor, but you get the idea. I have to admit I never really listened to or read the dialogue here, so it's too long. So, okay. We're landing at the Frost Forest Nico, and well, if you paid attention until now, you might know that shenanigans are gonna occur. So, I have a Frost Forest Nico save file from before we raise the continent. Yes, it's not a big deal as long as I don't get killed. I mean, that's true for most of the speedrun. Either way, let's see. I now have a Frost Forest Sneaker save file from before we raised the content. Also, don't worry about these levels, they're gonna disappear as soon as we reset. So here we go. Come on. So now we're in the underground, and we're going to reset to a state before we rose the continent from the ocean floor by loading the previous save file, by the Frost Forest Nico save and reset method, which saves the area and ID. As you can see, this is where we haven't upgraded the mana sword to the mana sword yet, that was before. And you can see this entire area looks really janky and weird. Normally you cannot get off of this platform here, but because, well, we are in the previous state and down here, we can go through the main entrance, which normally is blocked until later, until you clear the entire underground section. Which means we're gonna save and reset and go back to our previous save file. Now we have the mana sword again, and we are through the entrance, which means we skipped defeating Hydra and we skipped defeating the Kettlekin in the underground section.
Nice.
Alrighty, and so here is where we need those cactus for the last time to activate any orb, and this is also after this entire palace. This is the last opportunity to have me remove these cactus from the party entirely before we enter the mana fortress, just as a heads up. You want to say something?
I noticed before you did the first save warp, the lady leveled up while she was dead. Is that because she already had the experience, or what? Because, like, I mean, it really doesn't matter for the run or anything like that. I'm just curious what happened there.
I think I have an idea why that happens, but can you clip that?
I can try, yeah.
Because it could be interesting. I imagine it might just be the text, but I don't actually know. Because some things just don't get deleted after you save reset like that. I imagine the text might have persisted, but actually the actual level ups might have persisted. That would be weird. Also accidentally let the sprite die. Come back here, we still need you.
Also, just a quick heads up. Hi, I'm Metro Master. I'm taking over for Crunchy Legs as host for the next few hours.
Welcome to
and you. Said, thank you. And you said we're waiting on the incentive for the true solo mode?
Yes, the true solo character challenge is basically having the boy enter the mana fortress all on his own, literally without the other characters in the party. That would be the right incentive.
Unfortunately, I have not seen any donations towards that true solo mode, so it's still at 0 out of $50.
Mm-hmm.
And we have how much longer to reach that incentive?
I would say like 10 minutes, 15.
Alright, so if we can raise $50 in 10 minutes, we can reach that true solo mode for Secret of Mana.
Again, that's a very, very cool incentive. You don't want to miss that.
That being said, I do have a donation. It's $10 from Wolfman2000. It's a direct contribution, and they say, place in Back to the Future, please.
Back to the Future. I don't know what it's about, but it sounds good. So fun fact, because the sprite actually leveled up, he had just 10 MP, which is exactly how much we need in order to activate all the switches here. So this is the last time we needed these two other characters at this point. And the game kind of wants you to go around here in order to hit this switch up there, but, well, for obvious reasons, like we have a ranged weapon and such, we don't need to do that. Bonk. Bonk. I was kind of hoping to level up with the boy here after killing these wolves. That way I wouldn't have to use regular heal. slightly faster. Alrighty, so you might be wondering, wait, there's one more orb to activate on the left side here with the mana magic. Right, but let me actually explain something real quick about these rope poles and how jumping works. So, in order to jump across here, 3 conditions have to be met. 1, you have to have the whip equipped on the character. 2, you need to gather your party on the whip spot. And 3, you need to hit a rope pole. It does not matter which one. So what I can do is I can pick me the character, I still have the whip equipped, I gather the party, and with my hitbox I can hit the rope pole just right next to me. And we can jump across without having to have another rope pole on the other side. Which is what would happen if we were, as in that rope pole thing would appear on the side if we were to use the last magic for Luna on the orb on the left. But we can just entirely ignore that.
It's also a fancy way to softlock yourself if you jump into the wrong direction.
Indeed, yes. At least here you could use a magic rope to get back out, but yes. Don't recommend that. You might notice this guy only takes 150 damage, or 170, as opposed to the 250 the Watermelon took. Watermelon effectively has 0 defense, so that's the true power of the mana sword. All the enemies here just take a lot less damage because they normally have a lot more defense. Alrighty, we have a level 30 Pepsi. That sounds pretty good to me. Okay, and next up we have a boss that I normally like to run out of magic, but because the marathon is trying to catch up on time, I'm actually gonna go for the more straightforward method of killing her. This is reasonable to do with the boy, because I know exactly what she's going to do based on animation. The Pygmy's Glare is a physical attack. I can deny that damage by using a barrel here. And that's all that she's going to do. Pygmy's Glare would actually deal some damage to me, it's not that much if I get hit, but it would pygmy me. Once again, if you're a pygmy character, a small character so to speak, you lose 3/4 of your physical defense, and that is very unhealthy, as you might expect. So I actually hope that she uses Dispel Magic instead of using Pygmy. So the way you can actually really easily defeat hexes here is you sit in a barrel right in front of her. Because Dispel Magic costs 4 MP each time she casts a spell. So each time she casts a spell, it is 4 MP less, and 4 MP less, and 4 MP less. And because the only spell that she casts is one that doesn't deal direct damage, it's a very easy way of just kind of running her out of magic. Then, Hexes actually has 4 different forms. This was the standard form. The 2 other forms are where she is fire magic, water magic, or earth magic. Technically wind magic exists too, but the conditions for that will never be met, but so it's kind of a moot point. Uh-oh, this could be bad. Oh, oh boy. Alright, we're fine. We're fine. We're fine. I'm just gonna play it safe here. But yeah, once you run her out of magic and then transform her into one of the other forms, Hexes will no longer be able to basically do anything. And that's kind of the funny part about it. So this guy here, kind of like Mech Rider number 2, he can never run the over anymore because his collision box is too large. He is not going to be able to go any lower in order to actually get into position to dash. However, he's also the dumbest of the 3 Mech Riders, because he casts Wall on himself, which bounces back spells. And then he tries to buff himself. It bounces back the spell over to me. Because his AI script says, if I have a buff, use other abilities instead, but because he never gets a buff because he bounces back the spells, well, This is kind of all there is to this.
This is fixed in the remake, by the way, and it makes this boss hell.
Yes. By the way, after this boss, this is the last opportunity for removing the other cactus, just as a heads up.
Alright, I will keep track of donations towards that. Oh, well, it looks like we are doing the Secret of Mana True Solo mode. We have a $50 donation from Wubblers for the Secret of Mana True Solo mode.
Oh, wow. That was last second. Thank you. That's amazing. I love showing this off. Thank you very much, Wobblers. That's really, really awesome. Alrighty, everybody, you're in for a treat. So, earlier I asked you who likes cold and who likes hot. More people were in favor of cold over hot, but let me put it this way. We're going to send the other two cactus into a place called Snowman's Land. Well, it's more of a pun on the term No Man's Land. It's not actually a place. Whatever. I'm kind of getting besides the point. So, what I'm gonna do is I will be equipping the lady and the sprite with a specific set of equipment, so they take some damage, but not a whole lot, from the blue slimes. And let me buy some equipment here before we continue. So this set of equipment here, by the way, normally when you arrive here casually, it's incredibly expensive. You will probably not be able to afford these equipment pieces. However, because we have too much money anyways, it's not that big of a deal. Let's go for lower because we have stuff. This is fine. So I'm equipping the sprite and the lady here with some equipment. That way they don't instantly die from the blue slimes. Alrighty. Now. You prefer cold and hot. So just warm. That's fair. Alrighty, so now the easiest way to do this is going over to where we had the sewer section earlier. That is in the south town. Is the entrance is the closest that I tend to use for this. So here we go. Now, the sprite and the lady have been mostly imaginary friends up until now. Let's make them truly imaginary, because they're not gonna be here for much longer. So we're gonna go in here, and we're going to look for visiting some blue slimes. This next room here has just only blue slimes as long as we wait long enough until they split up. There we go. Now, what I need to do is I need to... Actually, I'm just gonna demonstrate it first and then I'm gonna explain it. So, move over here, just a little bit further. There we go. Alright, let's see. I hope we don't have too much defense. Nice. Actually works. Whoop. And the lady is gone. Alrighty, so what is happening here is... Effectively, what I'm doing is I'm pushing enemies as a snowman. Normally when you push enemies, as you can see, the bow is just pushing enemies. A snowman does not have such animations. So, what I'm doing here is I'm using a specific timing. While we don't have the snowman status anymore, we actually still have control over the character, and the snowman sprite has not yet disappeared after that kind of weird timing. Consequently, if I do that kind of weird timing, my characters are not going to be able to do anything in the meantime. But they are still snowmen, and they are trying to push an enemy. Effectively, a snowman trying to push an enemy just executes some kind of weird garbage data, and if you push an enemy up right into a corner or down left, it will just remove the character from the party. And welcome to the True Solo Character Challenge Run.
You know, I did this accidentally on my cartridge from, like, when I was 10. We did this accidentally when we played. It's we still have the save file. It's a memento, but we have to start the game over.
Oh no. Yeah. So the discovery of this glitch was actually quite interesting to me, because I was speedrunning this game for a while before I even learned this was a thing at all. Like, I was playing this game for quite a long time. I had no idea this even existed. Now, At some point while speedrunning this game, a certain person called DDR Jake entered my chat and said, "Hey, have you ever heard of this glitch where a cactus just disappears?" And I was like, I thought I knew everything, but no, I don't know about that one. And so I started researching a little bit. Actually, hang on, before I continue with that story, I need a level 2 boomerang to hit this rope pull up here. So when you hit a rope pull, your character just goes into this recovery animation immediately because, boom, it just tries to execute the event to check whether you're supposed to jump across the gap whenever you hit a rope pull. With specifically a level 2 boomerang charge attack, I can reach the rope pull right there just in time after I call Flammy. So I call the Flammy, and then the boomerang reached the rope pull, which consequently means that it tries to execute the event when landing here on the Mana Fortress. Basically, this is how we skip going to the pure lands with just a single character. You need a level 2 boomerang for that. Either way, removing characters is a weird thing to me, because there was effectively no video evidence and very scarce information on it in, well, basically any Secret of Mana stuff. And it took me a while to track down a video evidence of that happening to somebody, and I found actually the video evidence of a casual player on Nico Video, that is basically the Japanese YouTube and streaming website. And unfortunately from that we couldn't really figure out what exactly was going on. But later, the same year, that thing actually happened to a speedrunner at the time that is known as Incroyable. He had the record for a while. A good runner, good person. And, well, he encountered that accidentally. And with that, we finally had enough evidence on how that actually possibly worked. And we were able to, well, I say we, but HHS from the TAS Videos forums managed to figure out exactly how that works and why it works. And from there on out, it was just trial and error until I figured out how to replicate it consistently. Does hitting X crash the game? No, it's as if your characters are not here. Hitting X doesn't do anything. But that's actually an interesting point, because you can try to open up the menu while no character is on screen, and it might actually softlock your game. Because trying to create a menu off screen, the game doesn't like that too much.
Is there a way to get the characters back if you wanted them back?
Technically. But that would require you to use arbitrary script execution. Which, that's an entire other can of worms. But it is technically possible, but I don't think it's reasonably doable by most people. Because it's frame perfect after you use a text box or close a text box and stuff like that. It's kind of silly. Ooh, chest. 50-50 chance for me to get a trap. Ah, I got a trap. Don't kill me, please.
You gotta realize Yaga is addicted to chests, so whenever he sees a chest, he has to open it.
Yes, maybe. Probably. But yes, I love opening chests.
You know, most players are to be.
Well, to be fair, this one is actually particularly useful. I want to level up the sword to level 7? I think 7. I think 6 is sufficient, actually, for the boy. Either way, but if I get a chest here, this means I get potentially a power suit, which gives the boy slightly more defense, but I'm not doing it for the defense. It gives him also +5 attack power, which gets multiplied by the charge attacks as well as the mana sword's attack power. So it's actually a lot more than just 5 damage. Plus, for marathon settings, this also gives me some levels that I will be able to just kind of make it ever so slightly a little bit safer in the future. Do I have space for the power suit? That's actually an excellent question. Probably. Yes, I do. But yeah, that's a good question. Because I've been hunting items before where I finally got it and I didn't have space. I've done pseudo 100% runs of this game. It's kind of difficult to define what is 100% of this. And during some of these runs, I've had a full inventory where I couldn't pick up any more items. So I finally found the rare drop from some of the enemies, and I didn't get it. there a level 8 chart
Oh.
for the sword? Yes. In fact, so here's the thing. You only have to upgrade the sword to level 8 in order to be able to charge up to level 8. You start at level 1. Which means the mana sword actually is the level 9 sword orb. So it's naturally, you can get it casually without even needing the mana sword for that matter. Go ahead.
I was gonna ask, when is it determined what's inside the chest?
When you pick it up.
Okay.
So,
Because I had some pretty bad ideas just now. But they don't work if it's like that. Unfortunately.
oh, okay.
I was gonna say if it's determined when the chest drops, you could just get like a ton of orbs in one go, you know, technically, anyways.
Uh-oh. Oh no! Wow!
No.
That's a 1 in 50. It's a 50-50 chance to get a chest trap drop, and then it's a 1 in 16 chance to get the insta kill trap.
That was unfortunate.
Which, by the way, fun fact, that is calculated in the estimate here too. In case that happens. Not actually that big of a deal in comparison, but less than ideal. Either way, the lady actually does have a way to counteract that. So, fun fact, that damage you receive from the Doom Trap is physical, and Lucid Barrier cancels all physical damage. So the lady, as a matter of fact, will be able to just cast Lucid Barrier and not take any damage from that trap at all, which is quite useful. Saves come before picking it up? Well, maybe I should have. So, by the way, I'm on the SNES Mini. I could technically make save states. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm going to make a save state before the final boss. But before that, I like to play it as if I were on a Super Nintendo cartridge, where you cannot exactly just make save states.
I was about to say, that sure sounds like cheating to me.
Well, sort of, maybe. So I still want to level up the sword to level 6 at the very least, I think. 5 might actually be sufficient for the boy. I forget which level I had before.
I do remember you had 5 in one of your practice runs, but you said you wanted 6.
Yeah, actually I just see my splits say level 6/7 at 533 HP.
Mm-hmm.
553. Oh yeah, I think that was actually the HP threshold where I would survive one more Loosened Beam. But these slimes here are really convenient to grind on because they just respawn. And even though this Mana Sword, by the way, has a 100% chance to hit, they have animations where they are just unhittable, intangible if you will, during that. So even though it's a 100% chance to hit, it's like kind of awkward. Also, chests are really awkward because, well, they prevent enemies from spawning.
Yeah, the chests do take up a slot of like enemies.
Yep, more chests. I'm not gonna open these ones. For reference, they could kill me and they don't really benefit me in any capacity. The common drop is... The common drop from these chests is an amulet ring, which is just slightly more defense than the gauntlets, like literally one stage higher. But it's not worth it because the gauntlets give +5 strength, which is way more valuable. And the rare drop from that is a spear orb, which, well, I don't need another spear orb. I have my Mana Sword at this point, and that's just unparalleled, so to speak. Level 6 weapon already. Nice. And yes, your weapon skill, if you level up a weapon past level 8, it stops at 8.99, and there's a caveat to that too. So, the way weapon experience works is you get 10 weapon experience minus whatever level your weapon... Actually, 9 weapon experience minus whatever weapon level you currently have, which means at level 0 you gain 9 weapon experience. At level 7 you gain 2 weapon experience. And the catch is here. The way you gain weapon experience is you gain full weapon experience if the enemy is at least the same level or above you, and you only gain half weapon experience if the enemy is higher or lower level than you are. So what that means is, at weapon level 7, you get 2 weapon experience divided by, well, 2, which is 1. So 7 to 8 is you get 1 experience if you're too high level. However, in order to get from 8 to 8.99, you have to have a character that is not too high level compared to the enemies. So in order to get literally all weapons up to 8.99, you have to do some shenanigans in order to not overlevel characters, so you can get all the weapon drops and orbs and such before, well, bad stuff happens. Hey, there we go, power suit.
Easy.
I mean, certainly. Plus 5 strength, let's go and knock out Buffy. So, Buffy is a lot like Vampire. So that means I'm just gonna sit here and wait and hope that he jumps down. Letting glare. It's actually not as bad as the other thing. So with the Mana Sword we deal pretty good damage per swing, but this thing also does have a lot of HP. So, well, my plan is to just hit him every time he comes down, and hope that he just keeps jumping around. In case you're wondering, you can just barely not hit him when he is jumping up. It's just slightly not possible. I don't know what the threshold for that would be, but you're just very slightly too slow. You could technically charge up your weapon to level 1 and just barely make it out of the way of him landing, but that's kind of risky. I don't want to do this during a marathon run. That was a physical bat attack that he, or it was performing there. Power suit
Being
type.
super nice though.
Go ahead. Sorry, what was
Being
that?
super nice though.
Yeah,
I
right now.
Yeah. It's like the exact opposite of Vampire so far.
True. This is technically the best pattern when he just fakes coming down, then just goes back up immediately again. Because then I don't have to wait for him to come back down here. But obviously, I prefer him just continuously jumping rather than ever going back up. That is an energy absorb, and he will heal even though I'm gonna deny the damage. Just 26. The power suit does help mitigate his healing a little bit here too, which does help us in the long run. The gauntlets actually also give plus 5 strength, Kryptonym. Did I not mention that yet? The gauntlet equipment piece you buy from
Wow.
Nico does give plus 5 strength as well, and yeah, that was a very wow moment right here. Buffy was super nice here.
That's not how that's supposed to go usually, but I guess that makes up for the death we had.
Yeah. So, for reference, by the way, the power suit is the common drop. The Whimper would give you a Javelin orb as the rare drop. Oh, that's too slow.
Oh yeah, I guess this is also a fun fact, if you have all the orbs, they will drop candies instead. The
That's
orbs.
true. That is true. Actually kind of funny. Because in the 100% runs I tried to get like all the different equipment items, etc. And in one of them, I remember getting like 2 candies before I got the common drop. It's kind of absurd. So still killing enemies here. Having more HP and higher levels will give me a lot of safety against the Mana Beast in the end. But I also don't want to spend too much time here. Technically, I could go straight through. It is doable, but it is not without risk.
Yeah, the biggest problem about the final boss is that he can just unlock you if you make a mistake, and then, well, the fight's over.
Maybe. Yeah. It's a, to be fair, a relatively low chance for permanent unlock, but it is possible. Acid Storm, you meanie. I'm gonna see enough Acid Storm in just a moment here. In fact, I actually need to recover my barrels here.
I have a question, actually.
What?
How do you...
Wait, hang on. What was that? Why is there a... Huh? Did you see that chest animation?
Yeah, I saw that. It's trying to bait you. I got shiny things inside me. Here, have some smoke.
I've never seen that before.
Nice.
Alright, I'm actually gonna replenish my barrels real quick here.
Yeah, so is the reference point still the same? I was gonna ask that because, like, I know you use the girl's portrait mostly, or like if you have a predetermined one where you can just align, obviously. But yeah, would it work with boy's portrait here?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm just using the boy's portrait for that.
Oh, okay, okay. I wasn't sure if it was perfectly aligned the same way or not, so that's why I'm asking.
Alrighty, so here we have Red Slime. Red Slime is a problem, because it loves to cast Acid Storm, and Acid Storm... well... it has infinite MP, let's put it this way, and it deals a lot of damage with Acid Storm. And... it loves to cast a lot of Acid Storms. And it also has a lot of HP, and it loves to cast Acid Storms. I might repeat myself here a little bit, but I really mean it. But yeah, the boy's method of surviving this thing is just hoping it doesn't cast Acid Storm while I'm attacking. And that's actually reasonably doable, thanks to the Mana Sword just resetting the cycle of the Dread Slime every time I hit it. If I had a weapon that it didn't have a 100% chance to hit, it would be slightly more sketchy. But as long as I'm not missing a Acid Storm here to deny the damage, we should be mostly fine. But here's the thing, this guy can cast Acid Storm quick enough in a row in order to just straight up kill you from however much HP you have. It doesn't matter. It can deal that much damage, basically.
Now, one of the worst parts about this boss is as you damage it, it expands actually. And Yaga will of course not, demonstrate that, but if you get too far outside him when he's big, you can't actually get close enough to the core again to hit him, which is really, really annoying. He is weak to Shade actually, which a lot of bosses, or not a lot of bosses are.
In fact, he's the only one.
Yeah?
But yeah, it's true. So here's the thing. Red Slime always goes closest to the character that is, well, We're fine. Red Slime goes to the cactus that is the furthest away from the center. And because there's only one character, he is just going to go for that, well, one character. The other two literally are not considered alive at this point.
Yep.
So
Why he expands because you hit him, I don't know. It's anybody's guess, really.
It's like one of the bombs in Final Fantasy.
Slime.
Ooh, okay, we got him.
Flatten him like a pancake.
Alright, if we have a moment, I actually do have a few donations to read off.
Yes, just a quick heads up, I'm going to run through the last section of the fortress and then we get to the boss, but you have time until then.
Okay, cool. It's just real quick. Alright, so we have $4.50 from Magius1. It says, add to the following to the tournaments list of 50 for Mega Man X3, 150 for Donkey Kong Country or Donkey Kong Country 2, and $1.50 for Cadence of Hyrule. We have $20 from Michael Phillips. It says, Marble Madness, Marble Name Balls, a tradition unlike any other, from Chief Oleg. And then we have another $3 from Aegis1. going towards the Final Fantasy VI tournament, and $1.50 for Final Fantasy IV, and then another $1.50 from Magius 1 going towards Shovel Knight tournament. So thank you all very much for your donations.
Indeed, thank you very much. Alrighty. By the way, not having Ghost Trail behind you is kind of liberating because you don't get stuck everywhere. Really nice. By the way, these knights here hit like a truck. And Lucid Barrier absorbs a certain amount of physical damage. So even though the Mana Sword would deal like 1500 damage right here, the Lucid Barrier will absorb at least one attack. Either way, welcome to the end. So, we have a level 6 sword attack at this point. That should be sufficient in order to deal with the Mana Beast. So, I mentioned earlier that we don't actually need the Mana Sword in order to defeat the Mana Beast. The main reason why I guess most people think that you need the sword is because the Mana Beast has just a ridiculous amount of physical defense. You know how Buffy probably had like 100 defense? This guy here has like 120, I don't actually know the number. Either way, the Mana Beast has 450 defense, which effectively means unless you deal at least 451 damage in a single swing, you will deal no damage at all. Which means as long as you can exceed those 450 damage with any weapon, you will be able to damage the Mana Beast. Both the Sprite and the boy use the Mana Sword because it's just the most convenient, also fastest weapon to get to that point. But the lady actually uses the boomerang for it. Petrify Beam. I get hit too many times by this thing, so I'm just gonna use a barrel. So, Dark Lich here always alternates between a spell and the physical ability. Well, the other way around if you will. Also, let's see whether we get a headbang going here. Somebody
Dangerous, man.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna warn you. Don't try to do anything too fancy.
I'm using a barrel. I'm immune to the things. If necessary.
Okay. I'll trust you.
Yep. But yeah, it is dangerous to try and initiate the headbang, so to speak. That is very true. Leaden Glare is a targeted ability, it would hit me. So I use a barrel to deny it, because it is a physical spell, so the barrel just denies it entirely. Dark Force. We're actually pretty close to the hands here, so we want to get away from them. So, the way the hand phase works is he sticks up his head, and then he tries to go closer to you. And if he can't get any closer to you, he just goes up and down forever. So this is really sketchy, because sometimes he can break free of this. I think he mainly can only break free of this when you open up the menu and you're not exactly centered. Or maybe just one pixel, I don't actually know what the leeway is. Either way, if I get hit by the hands, I'm most likely dead. Because they don't just deal a tremendous amount of physical damage, but they also knock you unconscious. An unconscious character I cannot exactly do anything as. And the hands might just clap, 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 and you're gone. So what I'm doing here is, this is actually not technically a glitch. This is an AI loop. Just a very fast one. Effectively, in this phase, the Dark Lich recognizes that he can go up or down in order to get closer with the hands in order to be able to attack. However, because I'm in the exact center, neither of the hands are close enough to the character, distance-wise, to actually attack. So what effectively happens is the Dark Lich will never be able to attack at this point. because it just keeps trying to go closer, but it can only go up and down, it can never go left and right in this phase. So, it's just kind of locked into this headbang animation. And I'm really nervously just hovering my finger over the menu button in case he ever claps his hands, but I think at this point we are pretty safe. There we go. Alright, he had 6,666 HP. Killing him with the laser spell was so satisfying, yeah. Unfortunately, Lucid Beam costs so much MP. It's just largely not viable. It's actually one category where you use Lucid Beams. I put on something other than the power suit. Oh. Right. About that. Thank you, Laffy.
Sounds about right.
Alrighty. Magus, can you do me a favor?
Maybe, that depends. What do I have to do?
Actually, I'm just gonna make a safety save state here, because this is a tremendous amount of time lost if I mess up. So, I hope to not use it, but hey, who knows. How far ahead would we be if I finish this in 20 minutes? Of the schedule?
20 minutes. What was the estimate, actually?
5.5 hours.
So you would be...
an hour early. So, try to die, maybe, I don't know.
No, basically what I'm getting at, we are about an hour behind the schedule, I think. So relative to where we should be in the schedule.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that would actually put us perfectly in place then, if I understand that correctly. So first try, please.
Right. Alrighty. After the boy is done talking with his imaginary friends, we face the Mana Beast here. And so, the Mana Sword will appear if you cast the Yin and Yang spell while the boy has the sword in the hand. So, fun fact about the Mana Sword spell, it actually has a hidden portion to it where it grants you additional attack power based on how much... I think I start charging here already. It has a hidden additional attack power boost based on your secondary weapons leveling. So meaning if you leveled up the spear, the boomerang, the axe, etc., you actually get additional damage. Ooh, nice crit. So, alrighty. If somebody would like to keep count, this was 999 damage. Feel free to add up the numbers if you'd like to. And this beast has 9990 defense. And you might be wondering, hey, why didn't you just attack it again here? And the reason is laser beams.
Wasn't this your, like, flying friend earlier?
No, actually, it's a different one. It looks like Flappy, the game says so, but... So here's the thing, you also don't really see your flying friend anymore afterwards, but simultaneously, they somehow get around the world anyways, so... I don't know. Either way, the Mana Beast has 9,990 HP, and it's sometimes really good to know how much damage we deal. So unless I get a critical hit, the maximum damage I will deal is actually about 650. Also, sometimes I like to do funky stuff, kinda like this. Hang on, let's use this one. Where we just kind of disfigure the Mana Beast just a little bit. Just a little.
Rude.
255. Alrighty, so the reason why I don't attack the Mana Beast during its phase while it's sitting here on the podium is mainly because if it chains laser beams or loosened beams, I potentially can get chain locked or, well, comboed from about 600 HP down. So you lose a ridiculous amount of HP if you get Lucent Beam, Lucent Beam, Lucent Beam, Lucent Beam. Now the thing is, it's not terribly likely for that to happen. But the amount of time you lose, if it happens, is rather substantial. So as such, I'd rather not take any risks. But the estimate is with me playing it safe and only attacking once per cycle. 9,999 divided by 650 equals about 15 hits. That sounds about right. But I'm also getting sometimes low damage rolls. Also, this is 434, so I would need a level 7 charge attack in order to deal 650 probably. Alrighty, so the reason why I Pygmy the boy here, by the way, in order to, or while sitting on this platform, is if I get hit by Lucent Beam because I managed to not deny the damage from a laser, I will have a much quicker recovery animation, because the laser does probably more than 25% of my maximum health in damage. The recovery animation would be kind of lengthy, to say the least. 5. Trying to keep track. Mana piece is Luna, right? $26, that's a low damage from the Mana Beast end. And we have an additional 527. The nice thing is, with the Mana Sword, again, you cannot miss. So it is pretty consistent to defeat the Mana Beast in more or less the same time over and over again. As mentioned before, the lady does not use the Mana Sword. I don't bother getting it. In fact, it would take a really long time to get the Mana Sword with a Solo Cactus Challenge run with the lady. The sprite, as a matter of fact, by the way, this would have been the combo that would have killed me if I didn't deny the damage. In fact, the lady... what am I saying? The sprite Solo Cactus Challenge run goes all the way into the Pure Lands to defeat the Thunder Gigas to be able to acquire the Mana Sword in the end. So the Solo Cactus Challenge run with the sprite completes the entire Pure Lands in order to get the Mana Sword, which is not exactly a necessarily viable strategy to do with the Solo Cactus Challenge run with the boy or the lady, because they take a lot longer to clear that place. 2,315, thank you. Does the Fire Spiral hit you? It does damage. In fact, the Fire Spiral actually deals more damage. Ooh, another crit. That's lucky. In my previous runs, I actually hadn't gotten any crits. The Fire Spiral does hit you, and it does damage you, yes. And it does more damage than the fly-in of the Mana Beast. So I used the Bitch Mallet twice in order to stay small, just in case. Yes, a timed heal with chocolate ignores that damage. Also, the fly over from the right side of the Mana Beast here also deals damage, but I'm also preventing that damage from occurring by just unpygming the boy in time. By the way, if I wouldn't unpygmy the boy in time, he would probably get one-shot by that attack. And the chocolate I use literally here just to top off my health. Probably not entirely necessary. Usually. Unless it's necessary.
Might as well, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Since I want to deny the damage anyways. What? Another crit? What's up with that? The Mana Sword does actually give you +5 strength and dexterity if I'm not mistaken, or agility. But it does not give you increased critical hit chance. Well, I suppose agility does, but... details. But yeah, the lady can guarantee critical hits via the use of Luna Magic in this fight here. The sprite actually uses Acid Storm to reduce the Mana Beast's physical defense by a bunch. Which also means the sprite actually has to have level 4 Shade in order to remove the Mana Beast's wall shield here. Okay, wrong one. Royal Jam always heals you back to full HP, no matter how much HP you lost at that point. It does also have a slightly longer animation. Thank you, pork shots. And with this, we are almost halfway through the HP of the Mana Beast.
Yep. Pretty quick. Another one of these and it would be a 10-minute fight, roughly.
Yeah. Well, a bit more than 10 minutes. We're already at 10 minutes for the split after Dark Glitch.
Yeah, but there's cutscenes.
I suppose.
Clearly they are 5 minutes long, even though they're just 1 minute long. Still ridiculous to get 2 crits though, already.
Yep, it is. To be fair, crits are not nearly as unlikely. You kind of expect to see 1, maybe 2. But seeing 2
fight,
already
but...
is real lucky.
Yeah, I was gonna say, in the whole fight maybe, yeah.
Plus 548. Also, once again, shout out to Wobblers, I think it was, who enabled us to do this in a true solo character style fashion. I just really enjoy having only one character here for some reason, because the game just makes sure that you know, hey, you need the mana sword. Well, I already have it. It's a really long fight, it is. It's actually probably longer than the wall phase, or the vampire for that matter.
I mean, you could just try to attack during...
I could.
Then it wouldn't be that long. Either way, I think.
Yes. So... Oh, I didn't... Oh well, that's fine. We're actually standing in the correct position for trash. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Was I missing barrels before? So one of the problems about equipment trashing here is some of this equipment here is occupied by the sprite or the lady, even though they are not in the party right now. So I potentially cannot equip the equipment anymore if I'm doing stupid stuff. I'm not standing in the correct spot. Oh, I need to stand on the left side. Oh, okay.
I was gonna just say, I think you need to go more left.
Yeah. For some reason it was here. I thought it was here. Apparently not. That's fine. Just gonna use up the honeys and then replicate the chocolates. Alright. Wow, plus 999. Alright.
Oh man, it's gonna be gold split, I can feel it.
Probably. So here's the thing, the first time I ever did a solo character challenge run of this game, I did not know the Mana Beast could literally chain laser you to death. So I didn't, I just started charging. For reference, it was with the solo character as the lady. And so I just kept charging up. And attack, and it worked just fine. The second run I tried, it was, well, I wasn't so lucky. And that's when I learned that, oh, that thing can just straight up kill you.
We're at 63, by the way.
What was that, sorry?
We're at 63
Okay,
for damage.
thank you.
Just so you know.
Low 4 attack was about 255 damage last time. Plus 532. Okay. By the way, because I'm not timing my menus after the spells happen, I'm just mashing the button, which for the boy works just fine most of the time. But it's a little bit sketchy if you try to play this on emulator doing this, because you might not get the exact same amount or rhythm of inputs in those scenarios. So that can be a bit sketchy. Oh wait, that's gonna replicate the barrel. I'm a doofus. I need to delete one more. Yeah. This is fine. This is fine. Okay, we have chocolate again. Good. Where was I? I was saying something. I feel like my biggest problem in my life is that I just keep interrupting myself.
I do that all the time with myself too, so don't worry about it.
But yeah, okay, that's actually a good point. There are probably people now that haven't been here earlier. What I'm doing with my equipment is 543, is I effectively delete it while I'm wearing the inventory item, while standing in a specific spot. What this does for me is, it allows me to multiply my items, in a sense. More specifically, it reduces the amount of items I have, or consumable items I have in my inventory by 2. Each time I equip something and then throw it away while I have it equipped. And what that effectively does for us in this scenario here is it reduces chocolate from 2 minus 2 to 0. But because it actually does not remove the item from the inventory, the 0 chocolate in my inventory kind of pretty much acts as if I had a total of 8 chocolates in my inventory, because the maximum number it can display is 7, since it uses 3 bits for that. The 5 bits afterwards are used to determine which item it is. Unfortunately, we cannot change those, otherwise that would be funny. 543. So I think it's 4 more attacks unless we get a critical hit.
That is correct. It's pretty much exactly 8,000 now. It's 8,007, but yeah.
Nice. From the Banana Beast. Alright. Come on, give me one more crit, please. 537. 3 more attacks.
I'm glad you're asking for crits after you crit already 3 times. That's great.
I mean, yeah. More are always nice, right? By the way, I think the boy technically does enough damage that if I get a crit with a regular swing, it would actually deal damage. Whereas the sprite actually does not deal enough damage with a regular swing with a crit.
That does definitely sound about right.
Oh, maybe one more thing. A solo character challenge run, if you don't use glitches, I highly recommend you use the boomerang. About level 8 would be useful. The reason why specifically the boomerang is the boomerang has the weird property where initially, while you unleash the charge attack, the character is just wildly flailing around with the boomerang. That is a melee attack. Then they let go of the boomerang and throw it around. That is a projectile attack, and those are actually 2 separate types of attacks. So consequently, you do get 2 separate chances to hit the Mana Beast. Plus the boomerangs at level... well, the 2 highest orb levels, they actually have an increased rate of critical hits. So even though you will only deal like 150 damage with a level 8 boomerang charge on the sprites, just naturally, Thanks to having an increased quick hit rate, you have a decent chance to deal a fair bit more than that. On top of that, you do have 2 attacks per cycle, rather than just 1, thanks to having effectively a double hit. So, technically, Boomerang is one of the best weapons, as awkward as it is to use. So, 1 more attack, unless... Wait, no, 2 more hits, unless it's a critical hit. Ow! Whoa. Oh. Well, I guess we get the crit.
Nice!
Alrighty, and... Ladies and gentlemen, everybody, I think this was the Solo Cactus Challenge run with just a boy. Thank you so much for donating for the True Solo Cactus Challenge run again, Wobblers. I really appreciate that. I always love it when I can show that off. And thank you for, well, watching the SpeedGaming live marathon. The ending credits here are about 7.5 minutes. As a heads up, the moon phase is entirely random. So that means you can get a full moon, crescent moon, or 2/3 of a moon. The star constellation is random, just in case you did not know that. And aside from that, that's mostly it. Oh, by the way, if you do a Solo Cactus Challenge run with the sprite or the boy or the lady and remove the boy from the party, he's not gonna be here, and it looks really awkward. Alrighty, that's that.
Alright, thank you very much, Yagamoth, for that amazing Secret of Mana run. Coming up next, we're going to be kicking off the Retro Gaming live block with The Adventures of Batman and Robin by Cypherin.
Is that a good game?
I believe it is. I haven't looked at it yet.
Because Batman and Robin, every time I think of it, I just have to think of PJ's Super Nintendo Batman game. It's like, no. Then again, there's an NES Batman game that's really good, and there's like the Arkham Asylum games, which is really good.
Right. Oh wow, we've got a bunch of donations in here, mostly from Magius1 and then one from TJ0, but adding money to the Link's Awakening Adventures of Batman and Robin. Actually, no, we have a TJ's donation adds $2 for the Batman character choice for the Adventures of Batman and Robin. As for tournaments, we have a Sonic the Hedgehog game, one of the Tony Hawk Pro Skater games, Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, Super Mario Odyssey Triple Bingo, Star Tropics, Super Smash Bros. Brawl The Subspace Emissary, Super Mario Land 3 Wario Land, Star Fox 64, Mystery Games, a Bad Games Tournament, a Multiple Games Tournament, and Robotech Battlecry Any Percent of various dollar amounts. Thank you very much, Magius1, and thank you very much, TJ0.